Chapter 2184. The 972 winged elders from the Heaven Protectors were sent flying. Blood splattered in the air, and it was a glaring sight. However, the 9 of them quickly steadied themselves. They stared at Lin Tian. At this moment, their gazes turned even colder. Even though we're far from our peak condition, we're still able to suppress a lowly human worm. In the next moment, the 9 of them attacked again. The spirit-devouring diagram vibrated, and densely packed vengeful spirits rushed out and pressed down on Lin Tian. At the same time, the 9 of them used their remaining saint force to unleash order. Divine chains of order clanged as they attacked Lin Tian together. The space in all directions was distorted, and all kinds of destructive killing lights were vast and mighty. The black hair in front of Lin Tian's forehead danced. In his eyes, the 9 black moons were linked together by mysterious Tao patterns. Providence in all directions intertwined with his gaze and circled around him. Clang! He attacked again. The 7-colored divine sword vibrated. Together with the Eye of Destiny, he activated the power of Providence and slashed out once again. The swift and fierce sword was accompanied by the power of Providence. It was indestructible and could destroy anything. It was even more powerful than the sword he had slashed out earlier. It met the 9 people's divine chains of order head-on. With a crack, the divine chains that the 9 of them had unleashed at the same time were instantly shattered by his sword. Roar! A bloody aura filled the sky. The vengeful spirits screeched, and their faces were ferocious. They kept rushing out of the spirit-devouring diagram. At this moment, they appeared in front of Lin Tian. They were like ferocious beasts that had been starving for countless years. They madly bit at Lin Tian. Lin Tian tilted his head and looked at the vengeful spirits that were charging at him. His eyes were cold. The 9 black moons vibrated slightly, and instantly, the large group of vengeful spirits that were charging at him stopped. Even though they had lost all consciousness, they could not help but tremble and feel an inexplicable fear. Attack! A cold voice rang out. One of the 972 winged beings spoke. He activated the spirit-devouring diagram with Saint Force and controlled the fearful, vengeful spirits. The vengeful spirits roared ferociously again and charged at Lin Tian again. Lin Tian's gaze did not change at all. His Eye of Destiny moved, and vortexes of providence instantly appeared around him. They truly devoured and suppressed everything. The large group of vengeful spirits around him were instantly annihilated. It was also at this moment that Lin Tian stepped toward the 972 winged existences with his divine sword in hand and boundless providence revolving around him. Wherever his gaze passed by, the illusory providence condensed into a physical form, evolving into vortexes of providence one after another. It was as if they were going to devour the entire universe, forcing the 972 winged existences to hurriedly resist with all their might. Clang! An ear-piercing sound rang out. Lin Tian held the Rainbow Divine Sword and activated the Reincarnation Heart Sutra. The Reincarnation Forging Soul technique increased his strength by 20 times. The power of Providence increased his killing power infinitely. He used the Rainbow Divine Sword and Providence to strike again. This was a destructive strike. In the blink of an eye, it landed in front of the 9 people. The 9 people's expressions were cold. They did not look good at all. They activated their Saint Force and formed a light screen of order to defend against this terrifying sword radiance. If the 9 of them were at their peak, even if Lin Tian opened his Eye of Destiny and had that terrifying divine sword, they would still not be afraid of him. This was because Lin Tian's cultivation was only at the Dominator level. There was too much of a difference between their levels. However, the current situation was that after fighting with the man in green and the Divine Key, their combat strength was far from their peak. They had less than 10% of their Saint Force, and they were all heavily injured. Under such circumstances, encountering Lin Tian's Eye of Destiny and Divine Sword was a huge problem for them. It seems to be suppressing the 9 people. Yeah. In the distance, the white tiger and the little Taichu could not help but feel excited. The man in green and the divine key were already heavily injured. They did not have any combat strength left. As they watched Lin Tion's battle, their eyes were filled with shock. At the same time, they were also on their guard. They were ready to enter the battlefield again at any time. Clang! The sound of the sword clanging could be heard. Providence filled the sky. Lin Tian wielded the rainbow divine sword. Together with the power of providence, he continuously slashed out killing sword radiances. These sword radiances were very terrifying. With one man and one sword, together with the Eye of Destiny, he was like a real, peerless demon. He destroyed many vengeful spirits and shattered many divine chains of order. After dozens of breaths, he used the rainbow divine sword and the Eye of Destiny to forcefully step into the midst of the 9 people. Providence churned, and the rainbow divine sword radiance surged. It destroyed the spirit-devouring diagram and sent the 972 winged beings flying again. Swoosh! With a piercing sound, he held the divine sword and stared at the black-robed elder among the 9 people. He took a step forward and approached the elder. "Old man!" His voice was bone-chilling. The black hair in front of his forehead danced wildly. The 9 black moons in his eyes vibrated, and all the providence around him was drawn over. It formed a waterfall of providence that enveloped the black-robed elder. It mercilessly pressed down on him. Previously, the black-robed elder had called the descendants of the divine key and the man in green bastards. When he had insulted the divine key, he had also insulted Wu Yi. He had always remembered this. He would never allow anyone to insult Wu Yi. No one. Boom! The surging providence pressed down, causing the heavens and the earth to crack. Even someone as strong as the black-robed elder could not help but tremble. He immediately roared angrily and mobilized all the divine power in his body. The power of order also went up to meet it. At the same time, the other 872 winged beings also took action. They stepped forward from afar and helped the black-robed elder. They controlled the spirit-devouring diagram to attack Lin Tian. Lin Tian did not even look at the 8 of them. He held the 7-colored divine sword and swung it backward. Moreover, there was a terrifying power of providence accompanying it as it swept towards the 8 of them. The unparalleled sword light blocked the attacks of the 8 of them, causing them to stagger back. The spirit-devouring diagram that they had summoned also trembled. It was also at this moment that the surging power of providence pressed down on the black-robed elder like a waterfall. Under the black-robed elder's horrified gaze, it instantly crushed the divine power and order power outside his body. The power of providence directly drowned him. Ah! A furious and miserable cry rang out from the surging power of providence, resounding through the space. The black-robed elder was crushed into pieces. This scene caused the white tiger in the distance to feel its scalp go numb. The black-robed elder was a top existence of the Heaven Protectors. Such a big shot actually let out a miserable cry at this moment. It was hard for it to imagine how terrifying the power of providence that Lin Tian had mobilized was. It was hard for it to imagine what kind of blow that strike had dealt to the black-robed elder. Damn it! Damn it! The black-robed elder roared. His physical body collapsed, but his soul was immortal. He charged out of the waterfall of providence. However, even though he had charged out, his soul was trembling violently as if he was enduring some kind of intense pain. He stared at Lin Tian in shock and anger. His eyes were filled with murderous intent. At the same time, he looked at Lin Tian's eyes and the materialized providence around him. There was also fear in his eyes. "I'll kill you." Lin Tian's eyes were cold. He held the 7-colored divine sword and charged towards the black-robed elder. Chapter 2185. With fate circling around him, Lin Tian was very fast. Holding the 7-colored divine sword, he pressed down on the elder in the blink of an eye. Clang! Without any superfluous movements, he swung his sword and slashed out a sharp 7-colored sword light. At the same time, the 9 black moons in his eyes trembled slightly. Boundless power of fate surged and pressed down mercilessly. The elder in the black robe had been severely injured by the waterfall of fate. At this time, the formation of his physical body was affected. Before he could form a physical body, Lin Tiansha had already arrived. He could only retreat and use his spiritual body to perform a saint spell. Lin Tian's eyes were cold. As the seven-colored sword light and the power of fate pressed down, he performed the reincarnation god-slaying technique. With the enhancement of the Eye of Destiny, the invisible killing force directly hit the elder's spiritual body. The elder's spiritual body immediately trembled. He grunted and was sent flying hundreds of feet away. At this time, Lin Tian's sword light and the power of fate crushed the saint's spell that the elder had performed. At the same time, they landed on the elder's spiritual body. Arcs! As strong as the elder in the black robe was, he couldn't help but scream again. Clearly, he was severely injured by the power of fate. Lin Tian stepped forward and caught up again. His eyes trembled slightly. More power of fate appeared and pressed down on the elder in the black robe. At the same time, he swung the seven-colored divine sword in his hand. He activated this divine weapon of unknown strength with all his strength and slashed down at the elder in the black robe. It cut the void in half, and spatial turbulence flowed freely. The elder in the black robe was shocked and furious. His spiritual body quickly retreated. At this time, he didn't dare to face Lin Tian's power of fate and the power of the divine sword head-on. The combination of the two was too much of a threat for him in his current state. Whoosh! 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 The sound of the air being torn apart reverberated. The purple-robed elder and the other 772 winged cultivators all flashed. They held the spirit-devouring diagram together and helped the elder in the black robe reform his physical body. Then, they used the spirit-devouring diagram to face Lin Tian's power of fate and the power of the divine sword. Even if we're far from our peak state now, do you really think you could deal with us? One of them said coldly. The spirit-devouring diagram that was controlled by the 9 of them was extremely terrifying. Countless resentful spirits rushed out from it, and a bloody aura filled the sky. This power collided with Lin Tian's destiny and the power of the divine sword. With the combined power of the 9 people, they managed to block the destiny and the power of the divine sword. Lin Tian's eyes were cold. He didn't say anything. His eye of destiny moved, and even more fate energy surged from all directions. Surging luck circled around him, circling around the 7-colored divine sword in his hand as he slashed towards the 9 people. Clang! This sword was stronger and sharper than any of the previous ones. It was as if it could cut through everything. The 9 of them worked together to control the spirit-devouring diagram. Countless vengeful spirits rushed out from it, and they cooperated with the divine chains of order to meet Lin Tian's sword. However, the 9 of them were severely injured at this time, and their sane energy was insufficient. They could not block this sword at all. Chi! 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 Soft sounds rang out, and the vengeful spirits that rushed out from the spirit-devouring diagram were all shattered by this sword in the blink of an eye. Moreover, the divine chains of order that the 9 of them had formed also shattered one after another. However, Lin Tian's sharp sword did not shatter, and it continued to slash towards the 9 of them without slowing down. In the blink of an eye, it was in front of the 9 of them. Suddenly, with a bang, the 9 of them were knocked back at the same time. They had to use the spirit-devouring diagram to protect themselves to block this killing power. It was also at this time that Lin Tian stepped forward and approached them directly. Buzz! The power of destiny moved with him, turning into a tidal wave of destiny. Its aura surged, and it drowned the 9 of them together. The 9 of them's expressions changed. They all roared and activated the spirit-devouring diagram with all their might to meet the tidal wave of destiny that Lin Tian had formed. Countless resentful spirits rushed out from the spirit-devouring diagram. The bloody aura surged and turned into a blood shield to meet the tidal wave of destiny. However, the destiny was too terrifying. In the blink of an eye, it shattered all the resentful spirits. Bang! 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 The 9 experts were sent flying once again. Their blood and chi were in turmoil, and their faces were much paler. The 9 of them gritted their teeth. The spirit-devouring diagram shook again. Together with their respective orders, they formed a killing power and slashed towards Lin Tian. Lin Tian's eyes were cold. He was fearless. The power of destiny moved with him, and the power of the divine sword was pushed to its strongest level. He fought against the 9 of them alone, and he kept closing in. Rumble! In this place, the sky trembled and the ground collapsed. The purple-robed elder and the 9 of them were knocked back again and again, and they were injured. The spirit-devouring diagram is about to shatter, and our saint power is about to dry up. Now, although we can barely stop him if we work together, we can only retreat in the end if this continues. One of the 9 of them said, communicating with the other 8 through divine consciousness. The other 8 looked gloomy. Although they did not want to admit it, it was the truth. In their current state, even with the help of the spirit-devouring diagram, they would not be able to stop Lin Tian, who had the eye of destiny and the rainbow godly sword. When that time came, they would have to retreat in order to survive. They could not fight Lin Tian head-on. We have lived for so many years, and we have to retreat from the hands of a sovereign realm ant? Retreat without doing anything? Impossible. The reincarnation body and the eye of destiny must be suppressed. The divine key's divine consciousness has already recovered. Give her some time, and she will return to her peak state soon. We cannot let this continue. The human is not weak. He must die. The descendant of the immortal spirit royal family should also be captured. He has great value. It is a rare opportunity for such a group of people to gather together. We cannot retreat without doing anything. There are 3 people who have already come out of seclusion. They are at the same level as me. Use a secret technique to inform them. As long as one of them comes, everything will be settled. That should be the case. Just in case, let all 3 of them come. The 9 powerhouses work together to resist Lin Tian's power of providence and the power of the godly sword, while secretly communicating with their divine consciousnesses. Then, the 9 of them nodded to each other. The purple-robed elder moved. The 72 wings on his back flapped and intertwined with a special holy light. In the blink of an eye, he rushed out of this world and disappeared. This scene caused the divine key's expression to change. He's informing the other elders in the clan to come here. She was the most powerful person in the Heaven Protector clan back in the day. Naturally, she knew everything about the Heaven Protector clan. As soon as she said this, the green-robed man's expression changed. At the same time, the little Taichu and the white tiger's expressions changed at the same time. Elders, there are other 72 wings in this clan? The white tiger's body shook slightly. Previously, the divine key had addressed the black-robed elder and the other 72 winged beings as elders. This was enough for it to know that the elders of the Heaven Protector clan were all 72 winged beings. There were already 9 people of this level in this clan. Could it be that this wasn't all of them? When I was still in the clan, there were 87 people in the clan, including me, who had reached the height of 72 wings. The divine key said. As soon as these words came out, the white tiger's expression changed again. It could not help but tremble as a strong sense of horror rose in its heart. The 972 winged beings in this place were all extremely terrifying. It estimated that they should be comparable to the strongest in the universe, or even stronger. Moreover, there were more than 80 people in the Heaven Protector clan who were at the same level as these people back then. What kind of pity was this? How terrifying was this clan? Yeah, the little Taichu was also shocked, and its eyes widened in shock. On the battlefield, Lin Tian saw the holy light swept out by the purple-robed elder and heard the divine key's words. His eyes flickered slightly. However, this was only for a moment. In the next moment, his eyes became even colder. Clang! Chapter 2186. The purple-robed elder used a secret technique to summon the other 72 winged powerhouses from his clan. Lin Tian felt a sense of urgency, and he activated the rainbow, divine, sword even more. The 9 black moons in his eyes trembled slightly, and boundless destiny pressed down. He now had the Eye of Destiny and the Rainbow Divine Sword. Together with the Reincarnation Forging Soul technique, he could suppress the purple-robed Elder and the others. This was because the purple-robed Elder and the others were severely injured and were far from their peak condition. At this moment, if another 72-wing powerhouse came, he wouldn't be able to stop even one of them. After all, his cultivation was only at the ruler realm, and he couldn't unleash the full power of the Eye of Destiny and the Rainbow Divine Sword. He couldn't even unleash the tip of the iceberg. Clang! The Rainbow Divine Sword boomed. Together with the boundless destiny, the sword's momentum was even sharper than before, and it seemed like it could easily destroy everything. He swung his sword and directly slashed the avenging spirits into pieces. He stared at the purple-robed Elder among the 972 winged powerhouses. With his current strength, it would be difficult for him to kill all 9 of them before the other 72 winged elites summoned by the 9 of them arrived. However, he had to kill this person who insulted Wu no matter what. His eyes were cold as he stared at him. It was like a peerless killing sword, and boundless destiny pressed down on this person. Moreover, with the Rainbow Divine Sword and the Destiny, he used the Ling Tian Sword Manual and blasted the purple-robed Elder and the others away. The purple-robed Elder was shocked and angry. He could see that Lin Tian was completely targeting him. Damn humans! He cursed coldly. In his current state, he didn't dare to fight against Lin Tian, who had the Eye of Destiny and the Rainbow Divine Sword. He kept retreating. However, Lin Tian opened his Eye of Destiny. It was a power that was much stronger than order, and there was a difference in levels. At this moment, as his gaze swept past, formless destiny immediately condensed and turned into a destiny vortex that swallowed the opponent. Poof! In just an instant, the purple-robed Elder couldn't dodge in time. Half of his body was crushed, and blood splattered in all directions. This made the purple-robed Elder even more furious. His saint power surged, and order protected him as he moved a few hundred feet away with difficulty. Today, you will definitely be suppressed. The injuries you've inflicted on me now, I'll return them to you 10,000 times over in the future. The Elder said coldly. They had already sent a secret technique to inform the 372 wing powerhouses who had already come out of seclusion. They would be here soon. When that happened, even if Lin Tian had the Eye of Destiny and the Rainbow Divine Sword, he would be suppressed in the blink of an eye. Whoosh! These vengeful spirits rushed out. Under the control of the 9 people, they pressed down on Lin Tian mightily. Their faces were ferocious. Lin Tian was fearless. His eyes were cold, and his Eye of Destiny combined with the Rainbow Divine Sword. He swung his sword and destroyed everything. He took a step forward. At this moment, there was only the purple-robed Elder in his eyes. I want you dead. His voice was extremely cold. His black hair danced in front of his forehead, and 9 black moons intertwined in his eyes. It was a terrifying sight. Rumble! Boundless luck surged, surging and surging, shocking everyone. The 9 people were shocked. The blood in their bodies surged from the impact of Lin Tian's destiny. Their faces turned pale, and they didn't look good. The 9 of them were completely suppressed by Lin Tian. They could only work together to support the soul-devouring diagram and barely resist Lin Tian's attack. You won't be arrogant for long, the purple-robed Elder said coldly. His expression was the worst. At this moment, he stared at Lin Tian. The murderous intent in his eyes was extremely oppressive. Lin Tian's eyes were emotionless. He slashed down with his sword, and the boundless void collapsed. Destiny and the Rainbow Divine Sword's power enveloped the surroundings. In another place in the vast heavens and earth, 3 figures rushed out from a hazy great world. They were extremely fast. Reincarnation body, Eye of Destiny, Divine Key, the human from back then, and a descendant of the immortal spirit royal family. What a lineup, one of the elders said in a low voice. He had brown hair and 72 wings on his back. His eyes were intertwined with radiance. Hurry up. Those 9 people aren't in good condition now. Hurry up and suppress them all. especially the reincarnation body. Another elder said, not long ago, they had received a secret technique and learned about Lin Tian, Divine Key, and the others. They were now on their way. The third person laughed arrogantly. He looked a little young. Reincarnation body and eye of destiny? Interesting. And that divine key, your so-called first heavenly lady. Let me see how strong she is. In terms of talent, let's see who's the best in the history of our clan. This person had 72 wings on his back. He was a peerless genius of the heavenly guardians who had recently advanced to 72 wings. He was extremely powerful. Although he had just reached 72 wings, he was much stronger than most of the other elders who had advanced to 72 wings. His cultivation talent was so shocking that even the living fossils of this clan were moved. Shenwu, you're very strong. Your talent is indisputable. Not many people can compare to you. However, if you're a little more humble, you'll be able to go further in the future. The brown-haired elder said, humble? The person with 72 wings on his back was called Shenwu. He sneered. Humility is something that only weaklings and ants need. The brown-haired old man frowned, but he didn't refute. He said, in short, being a little humble won't do you any harm. As he spoke, he said, speed up. Get to that world as soon as possible. Shenwu snorted coldly. He did not think much of it. However, he sped up and moved forward even faster. In the blink of an eye, the three of them had crossed an endless distance. It was also at this moment that a middle-aged man appeared silently in front of them. He wore a white robe, and his eyes were very calm. The brown-haired elder and the other two narrowed their eyes. Their cultivation levels were very high, but now they could not even sense how the middle-aged man appeared there. In just an instant, the three of them knew that the middle-aged man in front of them was definitely not an ordinary person. He was definitely not weak. However, the three of them did not care. In this world, there were too few people who could make them care. Human, what are you? The brown-haired elder said. Then in the next moment, his expression changed. You. At the same time, the other elder beside this person was also moved. At this moment, he felt a familiar aura from the middle-aged man. His powerful saint body could not help but tremble. He could not help but take a step back. Human King? Hearing this beside him, Shenwu was also moved. Human King? His eyes narrowed slightly. He stared at the middle-aged man in white robes without blinking. He's the Human King? As a new 72-winged being of the Divine Clan, he had never seen a Human King before. However, he had heard many legends about him. The middle-aged man looked at the three of them calmly. Go back. The brown-haired elder trembled slightly. The Human King knew what they were going to do and deliberately stopped them here. Go. Retreat. His voice trembled slightly. He ordered the other elder and Shenwu to retreat and prepare to return to the clan. This person was blocking their way. He did not dare to cross over. Retreat? What a joke. The reincarnated body, the eye of destiny, and the divine key are the two disgraces of our clan. The descendants of the immortal spirit royalty are waiting for us to settle them. You want to retreat just like that? Shenwu snorted coldly. His gaze fell on the middle-aged man. They all say that the Human King is very strong and is said to be invincible. Good. I'll give it a try and see if it's true. There was a cold arrogance in his eyes. As soon as he finished speaking, he moved. The 72 blood wings flapped lightly, and a bloody storm swept up in an instant. Dense divine chains of order circled out together. They had the power to destroy heaven and earth. They pressed down on the middle-aged man in a mighty manner. For a moment, the world in this place trembled violently. Thousands of Daos trembled and panicked. Come back! The brown-haired elder's expression changed. He could not help but shout. There was no way Shen would listen. His eyes were cold and arrogant, mixed with a murderous aura that could destroy all things. In the blink of an eye, he pressed down on the middle-aged man. The middle-aged man stood where he was, not moving at all. In the next moment, Shen Wu's figure came to a halt. The cold arrogance in his eyes disappeared, and he was stunned. Outside his body, the bloody storm dissipated. The divine chains of order crumbled. His saint body cracked and disintegrated in the blink of an eye, vanishing into thin air. That idiot! The brown-haired elder was shocked, furious, and terrified. He and the other 72-winged elder immediately turned around and fled. In the blink of an eye, they were already far away. The middle-aged man was very calm. He looked at a certain great world in the Xianhuang universe from afar. There was a gentle light in his calm eyes. In the next moment, he disappeared silently from where he was, as if he had never been there. In the Xianhuang universe, boom, blood chi and saint power intertwined. Sword chi surged and fate surged. Lin Tian fought fiercely with the black-robed elder and the other 8 people. The void around them had long been destroyed. The ground had sunk many feet, and even magma was gushing out. Clang! His eyes were cold. He waved the 7-colored divine sword. His eye of destiny moved slightly. Boundless fate attached to the sword chi, and the murderous aura surged. The swift and fierce sword slashed a large number of vengeful spirits. The black-robed elder and the other 8 people were so shocked that they all took a step back. At the same time, the cracks on the spirit-devouring diagram that the 9 of them were controlling became even more concentrated. It was like a cracked and fragile piece of ceramic that could completely shatter at any time. The blood fiend aura had become much weaker. Damn it! The expressions of the 9 of them were extremely ugly. They were the few most powerful experts in the world, yet they were being suppressed by Lin Tian, a mere sovereign realm cultivator. The 9 of them could barely hold him back even if they worked together. Moreover, as time passed, their situation became worse and worse. Hold on for another 15 minutes. At most 15 minutes, the 3 of them will be here. Chapter 2187. Divine light and murderous aura intertwined, and the space around them shook. Lin Tian held the 7-colored divine sword. Fate surrounded him as he attacked the purple-robed elder and the others. His murderous aura was terrifying. Clang! The sound of the sword was ear-piercing. He slashed out with his eye of destiny. Fate surrounded him, and he forced the 9 of them back dozens of steps. His sharp sword light and unparalleled fate kept pressing down on the 9 of them. The 9 of them worked together to support the spirit-devouring diagram, but they were forced back again and again. More and more cracks appeared on the diagram. Ka! Soon, a crisp sound was heard. A corner of the powerful spirit-devouring diagram was crushed by Lin Tian's power of fate. He took this opportunity to step forward and close in on the 9 of them again. He used his boundless fate to disperse them. Buzz! The power of fate swept out. Wherever he looked, one fate vortex after another appeared and pressed down on the 9 of them at the same time. Then he stepped forward and appeared in front of the black-robed elder again in the blink of an eye. Clang! He didn't make any unnecessary movements when he was in front of the elder. He just swung his sword. The sharp sword light and the fate vortex worked together, sandwiching the black-robed elder in the middle. He forced the black-robed elder to face him head-on, not giving him a chance to dodge. The black-robed elder immediately used all his strength. All kinds of spells and divine chains met Lin Tian's attack. However, because he was heavily injured and his divine power was almost depleted, he couldn't stop Lin Tian at this time. He was sent flying and spat out blood. B***starred. The elder was extremely furious. Being targeted by Lin Tian like this, he wanted to swallow Lin Tian alive. Lin Tian's eyes were cold. The 9 black moons in his eyes trembled slightly. A new fate vortex appeared beside the black-robed elder and crushed half of his body. Even a part of his spirit was torn. The black-robed elder grunted and then roared. He reassembled his body and retreated into the distance, putting distance between him and Lin Tian. However, Lin Tian was now much faster than him. Furthermore, his eye of destiny was open. It was like the laws of space. Wherever his gaze passed, formless destiny would appear. He didn't even need to get close to Lin Tian to unleash his killing blow. Pooh! Once again, the black-robed elder was struck by the power of providence. More than half of his body was shattered and blood splattered in all directions. At the same time, this time his spirit body was also greatly affected, and cracks appeared on it. Boom! In the distance, the purple-robed elder and the rest of the 8 managed to avoid the fate vortexes with great difficulty and gathered together again. They worked together to control the spirit-devouring diagram. The murderous aura surged and swept the black-robed elder over, helping him to reform his body and fight Lin Tian together. Lin Tian took a step forward. Wherever his eyes passed, fate energy would descend. It was as if the heavens were shaking, bringing great trouble to the 9 individuals. With a sizzling sound, the resentful spirits that rushed out of the spirit-devouring diagram shattered one by one, and the fiendish blood aura was annihilated and dissipated one by one. He's completely at the top. His advantage is getting bigger and bigger. In the distance, the white tiger was pleasantly surprised. However, he soon revealed a worried expression. How long will it take for the other 72 winged elites to arrive? Lin Tian was now very powerful, and he was able to suppress the purple-robed elder and the other 8 individuals. Even though the 9 individuals had the spirit-devouring diagram, they couldn't resist him. However, this was based on the fact that the 9 of them were severely injured and didn't have enough saint power. If a few more no, as long as one of the 9 individuals arrived, they would be able to suppress everything here. Even if Lin Tian had the Eye of Destiny, he wouldn't be able to stop them. Shin Qi, the green-robed man, and the little Taichu were the same. They were all thinking about the same thing, and their eyes were filled with worry. Boom! Destructive powers surged. On the battlefield, Lin Tian fought against the 9 individuals alone, forcing them into a more and more difficult situation. Blood splattered everywhere. In the blink of an eye, a full 15 minutes had passed. What's going on? Why isn't he here yet? The 9 individuals worked together to resist Lin Tian. At this moment, their expressions were even more unsightly. Originally, according to their estimation, after the secret technique was sent out, the 3 people who came out of seclusion would be able to arrive here in half an hour at most. But now, 15 minutes had already passed, and the 3 people still hadn't arrived. What's going on? The purple-robed elder asked in a low voice. Under normal circumstances, the 3 of them would have arrived a long time ago. It was impossible that they still hadn't arrived. Clang! The sound of swords clanging resounded through the sky. Lin Tian took a step forward. The 9 black moons in his eyes trembled slightly, and the power of providence intertwined with each other became even more turbulent. Together with the 7-colored divine sword in his hand, he slashed out an extremely sharp sword of providence that seemed to be able to annihilate everything. In the blink of an eye, the 9 of them were sent flying. More and more cracks appeared on the spirit-devouring diagram. Then, a cracking sound rang out. Under this sword, the terrifying killing weapon that was covered in cracks finally shattered. The 9 individuals were shocked and furious. The spiritual devouring diagram was extremely troublesome to refine. Even a half-finished product like this had cost them a lot of manpower and resources. However, now that it had been destroyed by Lin Tian, the loss was too great. Lin Tian held the 7-colored divine sword. His footsteps didn't change at all. His eyes were cold and oppressive. Boundless providence pressed down on the 9 individuals. However, in the next moment, his body trembled slightly, and he couldn't help but stop in his tracks. Blood flowed from his eyes and from the corners of his mouth. This scene caused the white tiger and little Taichu's expressions to change. The Eye of Destiny is very powerful, but the burden it brings to him is too great. The divine Qi looked worried. Great power required great cultivation to support it. The Eye of Destiny was undoubtedly a supreme power. It was said to be able to change heaven and earth. It was many times more powerful than order. Although Lin Tian controlled it, his cultivation was only at the ruler level. It was naturally not easy for him to control this pair of godly eyes with his cultivation at the ruler level. The green-robed man also looked worried. However, he couldn't help Lin Tian at this moment. In the middle of the mountain range, the purple-robed elder and the other's eyes turned cold when they saw this scene. The black-robed elder mocked. Do you think anyone can control the Eye of Destiny? You want to control it with your cultivation at the ruler level? In the end, you will be destroyed because of it. Blood flowed from the corners of Lin Tian's mouth. Blood flowed from his eyes and flowed down his cheeks. However, his gaze was still cold. He looked at the black-robed elder and didn't move from his original spot. 9 black moons started to spin in his eyes. Buzz! Providence surged. A long river of providence intertwined behind the black-robed elder. It was as if it was going to destroy the heavens and earth. The black-robed elder's expression changed drastically. The other 8 people also trembled. They originally thought that Lin Tian's power of providence would be weakened because of the backlash from the Eye of Destiny. However, the opposite happened. At this moment, he was clearly suffering from the backlash from the Eye of Destiny. His physical body was starting to be damaged, but he was actually able to use even more providence. Chapter 2188. The River of Providence looked terrifying, and the power it contained was even more terrifying than the providence from before. The purple-robed elder and the other 8 were drowned in it at the same time. They tried to use their saint power to resist, but their saint power was completely crushed in an instant. In an instant, the 9 of them exploded at the same time. Glaring blood splattered in the void, and it was a ghastly sight. However, the 9 of them were not ordinary people, and they quickly reformed their physical bodies. Damn it! The 9 of them looked terrible. After the battle with the green-robed man and Shinki, they were all severely injured, and their combat strength was at most comparable to an ordinary sky-level fighter. Now that the spirit-devouring diagram had been destroyed by Lin Tian, they had completely lost their ability to resist. Let's go! The purple-robed elder gritted his teeth. With the spirit-devouring diagrams destroyed, they were left with only a little bit of saint energy. Their current combat strength was not even comparable to an ordinary Heavenly Ascension stage powerhouse. Furthermore, the 3 people from their clan that they had called for had yet to arrive. They could not wait any longer. If they continued to wait here, in the end, all of the powerhouses at their level would die at Lin Tian's hands. Immediately, the 9 of them looked coldly at Lin Tian and immediately retreated. White Tiger and Little Alpha Primordium couldn't help but be moved by this scene. Didn't they use a secret technique to inform the other 72 winged fighters that they had arrived? Why are they retreating now? The White Tiger was confused. It's been a long time. Maybe something else happened, and those who were notified can't come. Shinki thought for a moment and said, "But this is a good thing. The crisis is over." The green-robed man did not speak. He only nodded in agreement with Shinki. At the same time, their eyes shone brightly. They could not imagine that the person who had resolved the crisis today was Lin Tian, who was only at the sovereign level. The Eye of Destiny and the Rainbow Godly Sword were too powerful. The mountain range in front of them had been completely destroyed. Magma gushed out of the ground, and the void was in ruins. Don't even think about escaping. Blood seeped out of the corners of Lin Tian's eyes. His gaze was ice-cold as he stared at the black-robed elder. He took a step forward and slashed out with his sword from far away. The murderous sword light filled the sky. Moreover, as his gaze swept past, an ethereal fate surged out and pressed down on the black-robed elder. The black-robed elder was furious. They had already started to retreat, but Lin Tian actually continued to target him. At the same time, Shinki and the others' expressions changed. "Lin Tian, don't chase. Come back," Shinki shouted. She could tell that Lin Tian wasn't in a good condition. The burden from using the Eye of Destiny was too great. His body was already suffering from the backlash, and he wouldn't be able to hold on for much longer. It was definitely not a good idea to continue chasing after Lin Tian now. Their bodies were already suffering from the backlash from the Eye of Destiny. The purple-robed elder and the others started to escape. At this moment, letting Lin Tian escape and closing his Eye of Destiny to heal himself was the best choice. After all, if he continued to chase after Lin Tian, the backlash from the Eye of Destiny would become more and more serious as time passed. In the worst case, he might even be destroyed. Moreover, the purple-robed elder and the others weren't ordinary people. Even if their combat strength and saint power were depleted, they wouldn't be killed so easily. "Brat, don't chase after him." "Yeah." The white tiger and the little Taichu naturally knew this. They could tell that Lin Tian was in a bad condition, so they shouted loudly. However, Lin Tian didn't stop at all. Blood seeped out of the corners of his eyes, and his fate became even more turbulent. He shouldn't have insulted her. His voice was cold. The fate of heaven and earth moved with the light in his eyes, and the entire sky shook. After the suppression of the fate of heaven and earth, an unimaginably huge fate vortex appeared, causing the surrounding heaven and earth to shake violently. This scene immediately caused the black-robed elder and the rest to tremble. If they were at their peak, they would be able to block such a destiny vortex. After all, Lin Tian had unleashed this power with his sovereign-level cultivation. It was impossible for him to threaten them when they were at their peak. But now, their condition was even worse than that of an ordinary divine master, and their saint energy was about to dry up. Under such circumstances, how could they withstand such a great vortex of destiny? Their souls couldn't help but feel a chill. The 9 of them braced themselves to resist together, but they were no match for Lin Tian. They were instantly sent flying, and each of them spat out large mouthfuls of blood. One of them gritted his teeth. He didn't even have time to heal himself. He directly tore open the world door, and the 9 of them stepped into it. The world door that was torn open instantly disappeared. Lin Tian's eyes were ruthless. His pupils trembled slightly, and the world barrier collapsed. A door appeared, and he immediately chased after them. In an instant, he disappeared from this world. Shin Qi and the green-robed man's expressions changed again. They wanted to chase after him, but they couldn't. With their remaining strength, they couldn't tear open the world door at all. The white tiger and little Taichu could. They were both at their peak, but they couldn't catch Lin Tian's aura. They couldn't chase after him at all. He's determined to kill that old bastard. The white tiger was worried. It couldn't help but pray. It muttered, "Kid, please don't let anything happen to you." It could understand Lin Tian's feelings. A woman like Wu Yi, who was both powerful and beautiful, was usually as calm as water. Even the white tiger was furious when it heard the purple-robed elder humiliate Wu Yi, let alone Lin Tian. At this time, Lin Tian would never let him go. "Yeah, Lin Tian, please don't let anything happen to you." The little Taichu also said, clenching its pair of claws. Boom! Majestic providence rolled. Lin Tian held the rainbow godly sword and used the eye of destiny to mobilize the boundless providence. He chased after the purple-robed elder and the other 8 people. At this time, he had already passed through several great worlds and shuttled through the gaps between the great worlds. The gaps between the great worlds were very scary. However, once one's cultivation reached the saint level, they could pass through them as they wished. Clang! He waved the rainbow godly sword. With a swing of the sword, the rainbow sword radiance filled the sky. Moreover, wherever his gaze passed, the providence became even more frightening. It pressed down on the 9 people from different angles. The 9 of them were shocked and enraged. They were elders of the Heaven Protector clan. Each of them was comparable to a universe's strongest expert, or perhaps even stronger. But now they were being hunted down by a sovereign-level cultivator. What's wrong with those 3 people? Why didn't they come? The 9 people's expressions were very ugly. As they defended against Lin Tian's attacks, they thought about the 3 people who couldn't make it in time. However, with the 9 people's current state, they couldn't block Lin Tian's attacks at all. The defensive light screen was destroyed in the blink of an eye. Lin Tian took a step forward. The corners of his eyes were bleeding. At this moment, he completely ignored the purple-robed elder and the others and went straight for the purple-robed elder. He was very fast now. In just one step, he appeared in front of the purple-robed elder. Buzz! The black hair in front of his forehead danced wildly. 9 black moons spun in his eyes. A river of providence appeared and pressed down on the purple-robed elder. The purple-robed elder was furious. He used his almost depleted saint power to support the order defense. Crack! There was a crisp sound. Under the power of providence, the order seemed very fragile. In the blink of an eye, it was crushed by the providence. Then, with a poof, the purple-robed elder exploded. Blood splattered in the gaps between the great worlds. Lin Tian took a step forward. He didn't give the other party a chance to reform his body. The rainbow godly sword intertwined with the power of providence and mercilessly slashed at the other party's soul. With a clang, his sword pressed down and cut a huge hole in the purple-robed elder's soul. Chapter 2189. Damn it! Seeing that the black-robed elder's divine soul had been pierced, the purple-robed elder and the other 8 people hurried over to help. Lin Tian's eyes were cold, and there were 9 black moons in each of his eyes. As they shook slightly, the fate rolled over and pressed forward. Moreover, he waved the 7-colored divine sword in his hand and slashed down with the power of fate. The 2 attacks pressed down together, directly shattering all the divine arts that the purple-robed elder and the others had used. It almost shattered the crack between the worlds. Let's go! The 9 people's faces were very ugly. The black-robed elder gritted his teeth. The hole in his soul was still there, and it would be difficult for him to recover in a short time. One of them spoke and rushed out of the crack between the worlds, continuing to fly toward the clan. In their current situation, they really couldn't stop Lin Tian. They could only run. They wouldn't gain any advantage if they fought head-on. Lin Tian's eyes were cold, and he chased after them. His current speed was much faster than the 9 people. Soon, he caught up with the 9 people and slashed down with his sword. With a clang, the sharp 7-colored sword light flew over and landed in front of the 9 people in an instant. It was mixed with the power of fate. The 9 people worked together to support various great arts to block it, but the result was the same as before. They couldn't block it at all. Poof! 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 Blood splattered. Under the combination of the 7-colored divine sword and the power of fate, the 9 people were blasted into pieces. Then, with a rumbling sound, the 9 people's divine souls were indestructible. Soon they reformed their physical bodies. However, as soon as the 9 people reformed their physical bodies, they were met with Lin Tian's sword attack. The dense 7-colored sword light flew over and pierced through the 9 people like a hornet's nest. Especially the black-robed elder, because Lin Tian deliberately targeted him. He was the most seriously injured. He took the most sword light, and his newly reformed physical body became tattered in the blink of an eye. Lin Tian held the 7-colored divine sword. Fate surrounded him, and his footsteps didn't change at all. He pressed forward ruthlessly. Cough! In the next moment, his divine body shook violently, and he coughed out a mouthful of blood. The burden on his eye of destiny was too great, and the backlash was becoming more and more intense. A mere dominator rank ant. Do you think you can control it forever? Very soon, you will collapse on your own. The black-robed elder said coldly. He had always been targeted by Lin Tian. Seeing this scene, he felt very happy. Lin Tian wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and swung his sword at his opponent. Before that happens, I will kill you. With a clang, the 7-colored sword light appeared again. Accompanied by the power of providence, it appeared in front of the black-robed elder in the blink of an eye. It was a swift and powerful sword attack, causing the old man in black to be unable to dodge in time. His chest was directly pierced through, causing blood to spurt out. Soon after, his tattered body exploded. Ah! The man roared, and his soul retreated as he quickly reformed his body. Again, his body had been shattered by Lin Tian again. He was an elder of the Heaven Protector clan, one of the strongest people in the world. Now, he was being targeted by Lin Tian, a dominator rank cultivator, and was injured again and again. This made him feel extremely sullen and angry. Bear with it. Let's go. The purple-robed elder said in a low voice. He knew the current situation, and he pulled the black-robed elder away with the other 7 people. Now, their combat power was even weaker than ordinary heaven-reaching experts. They had to return to the clan as soon as possible. Lin Tian looked at the 9 people. His eyes burned, and his vision was a little blurry. However, his expression didn't change. After pausing for a moment, he chased after them once again. "I will kill you." He was very fast. Soon he caught up with the 9 people. The power of Providence attacked together with the 7-colored divine sword. The 9 people's expressions were ugly. They blocked and retreated at the same time. Just like that, Lin Tian chased after the 9 people, and the 9 people fled. In the blink of an eye, 14 hours had passed. 14 hours later, the 972 winged powerhouses were in an even more sorry state. Many of their wings were broken, and their battle prowess had even fallen below the level of the transcending heaven realm. Their faces had also become much paler. The black-robed elder, in particular, was the most severely injured because of Lin Tian's targeting. Now, he was only left with his soul. Because the power of Providence had hit his soul time and time again, he had temporarily lost the ability to reform his body. At the same time, Lin Tian's situation wasn't any better. Blood flowed out of his eyes and almost dyed his entire face red. His vision became even more blurry, and the burning pain became even more intense. However, his expression still didn't change at all. At this moment, his saint power was about to dry up. He had already recalled the 7-colored divine sword into his consciousness. He could only barely support the Eye of Destiny. The power of Providence circled around him, and he continued to attack. The majestic power of Providence surged and pressed down on the 9 people, causing them to scatter. All of them spat out mouthfuls of blood. The black-robed elder was the most miserable. His soul was covered in cracks. It was also at this moment that Lin Tian stepped forward and appeared directly beside the elder's soul. Blood flowed out of his mouth and eyes, but his gaze was cold. Providence vortexes formed around him, trapping the black-robed elder's soul. Then, strands of the power of Providence gathered in his fist under his will. In just an instant, his right fist was completely enveloped by the power of Providence. The black-robed elder trembled. Now that he was only left with his soul, he was extremely weak. At most, he was comparable to a sovereign-level cultivator. He couldn't shake off the power of the Providence vortexes around him. Seeing Lin Tian's fist of Providence, he couldn't help but shout, "Stop! Die!" Blood flowed out of Lin Tian's mouth. He spat out a word coldly, and the fist condensed with boundless Providence came crashing down. In the next moment, the punch landed firmly on the black-robed old man's spirit, shattering it into pieces. The purple-robed elder and the others' expressions changed. Their expressions were extremely ugly. An elder of their clan was slightly stronger than the strongest person in the universe. Now, one of them had been killed by Lin Tian, a sovereign-level cultivator. Even after countless years, their clan only had a few dozen experts of this level. How great of a loss was this? Damn it, bastard. The 8 of them stared at Lin Tian, all of them surging with killing intent. Their mental states were originally extremely profound, but now they were completely in a mess. Lin Tian gasped for breath. Blood gushed out of his mouth again. He turned his head to look at the 8 of them. His eyes were still cold. There were 9 black moons in each of his eyes, giving off a terrifying feeling. The power of Providence surged around him on its own, forming vortexes of Providence. He took a step forward and closed in on the 8 of them, looking at him like this. Even though they felt that he was on the verge of collapse and could be pushed down with a gentle push, the 8 of them still couldn't help but tremble slightly. "Let's go!" One of them gritted his teeth. Immediately, the 8 of them retreated far away again. They were currently too severely injured. Although Lin Tian looked like he would collapse at any moment, he was still holding on to his Eye of Destiny. There was still a dense amount of Providence surrounding his body. They didn't dare to try to fight him head-on. This was because they were already on the verge of death. If they were hit by the power of Providence again, they would follow in the black-robed elder's footsteps at most 2 times. They didn't dare to take the risk. In an instant, the 8 of them were accompanied by whooshing sounds. In the blink of an eye, they were very far away from this place. Lin Tian stared at the 8 of them as they left. The vortexes of Providence surrounded his body. He took a step forward, then stopped. Chapter 2190. The Destiny Vortex sucked Lin Tian in, and in the next moment, he disappeared from his original spot. The surroundings were completely silent, as if nothing had happened. After an unknown period of time, the space in another place distorted, and Lin Tian floated out from it. The space was dark and deathly silent, as if there was no gravity at all. Broken rocks floated in the air, and there were even corpses floating in the distance. Surging deathly aura intertwined in all directions, and the gloomy atmosphere was eerie. It was like the underworld. When Lin Tian appeared in this place, he had already fainted, and he floated in this dark space unconsciously. Time passed bit by bit. In the blink of an eye, 3 days had passed. In the dark space, strands of deathly aura started to close in on Lin Tian, and the gloomy fog intertwined with each other, as if it contained a terrifying poison. It started to corrode Lin Tian, and in the blink of an eye, it had already closed in on Lin Tian's body and covered him. However, it was also at this moment that strands of light appeared in Lin Tian's body, and his life origin started to glow. The faint roars of immortals and demons could be heard, and one after another, soul shadows appeared around his body. Each of them had a threatening battle aura, as if they were the most powerful fighting souls since ancient times. They forced the deathly aura that was closing in on him to be repelled. Time continued to pass, and very quickly, 7 days had passed. On this day, Lin Tian started to regain consciousness. Before he opened his eyes, his body started to tremble slightly. The soul shadows around him returned to his body, and in the next moment, he woke up. His eyelids twitched a few times, and he opened his eyes. The moment he woke up, his body started to tremble slightly, and he felt an intense pain in his eyes. It was as if he had been burned by a raging fire, and also as if he had been stabbed by a sharp sword. He opened his mouth and panted, as he knew that this was the backlash from using the Eye of Destiny too much. At this moment, this action made the pain a little easier to bear. This kind of action was indeed useful. Very soon, he felt much better. Then he circulated the Reincarnation Heart Sutra to heal his current injuries. He had used his Eye of Destiny and Rainbow Godly Sword as a sovereign to kill the severely injured black-robed elder and the others. In the end, he had managed to kill the black-robed elder as he wished. However, he had also suffered a severe backlash from the Eye of Destiny. Now, not only were his eyes in intense pain, but every part of his body was also in intense pain. It was as if he was going to fall apart at any moment. The Reincarnation Heart Sutra operated, and faint 9-colored holy light intertwined. Then in the next moment, his expression changed again. Cultivators needed to absorb the spiritual chi of heaven and earth to heal without the help of pills. At this time, he circulated the Reincarnation Heart Sutra and suddenly found that there was not a single bit of spiritual chi in this space. Then he began to look around, and his expression changed slightly. At this moment, he could clearly see the space around him. It was dark, and rocks were floating in the air. It was as if there was no gravity in this space at all. Further away, there were corpses, and the dense aura of death made him tremble for no reason. Battlefield of great devastation. His expression changed. When he was still in the primordial universe, he had heard Fengshen Tianzuan and Celestial Venerate Zhang Long mention some things about the battlefield of great devastation. It was very similar to the space in front of him. It was formed from a few universes that had been destroyed by the Celestial Court. His expression changed. How did he appear here? Before I fainted, I seemed to have been sucked into a vortex of providence, and was brought here by that vortex of providence. He still remembered what had happened the moment he fainted. Immediately, he became worried and guarded his surroundings. This was because the battlefield of great devastation was very terrifying. It was filled with the aura of death. Even heaven-piercing realm experts would not be able to withstand it for long. The aura of death floating in the battlefield of great devastation would gradually corrode them. He was only at the sovereign realm now, and he was severely injured. Falling to this place was simply a hopeless situation. However, in the next moment, his expression changed again, and his eyes were filled with shock. The aura of death around him was surging, and it was pressing towards him. However, in the end, it could not get any closer to him. It was as if there was an invisible force blocking the aura of death. With shock, he immediately checked his body. He discovered that at this moment his essence was glowing on its own. It was because of this that the aura of death in this space could not press down on him. This made him even more shocked. Could his essence block the aura of death like this? However, in some places where the aura of death was very dense in the past, such a situation had not occurred. He frowned and pondered, but in the end, he still could not figure it out. Thus, he stopped thinking about it. It was equivalent to wasting his energy. Let's leave this place first. The battlefield of great devastation was formed from the universes that had been destroyed. There were dozens of such places. Although his essence was glowing and the aura of death in this space could not get close to him, and he was not threatened for the time being, he could not guarantee that no accident would occur as time passed. Thus, it was best to find a way out of this place. The little fellow and that stupid tiger should be fine, he muttered to himself. He had been separated from the little Taichu and the white tiger when he was chasing after the black-robed old man and the others. Now that he had been swept to this battlefield of great devastation by the vortex of fate, he was no longer in the black-yellow universe. After all, the battlefield of great devastation was formed after several universes had been destroyed. It did not reside in an intact universe. At this time, he was not in the black-yellow universe. He had been separated from the little Taichu and the white tiger again. However, this time he was not worried about the little Taichu and the white tiger because they were with the azure-robed man and the divine key. The azure-robed man was very powerful. The negative energy in the wisp of divine key's soul sense had been removed by him with the aura of fate. It would recover in time. The little Taichu and the white tiger should be very safe with him. Immediately, he took out some Baodan elixirs from his body and used the Baodan elixirs to heal his injured body. At the same time, he began to walk in this battlefield of great devastation, looking for a way out. In this way, time continued to pass like the sand between one's fingers. In the blink of an eye, half a year had passed. In this half a year, he had traversed the great, devastated battlefield. He had traveled to many places and seen many corpses. There were some places where the power of death lingered, as if it could easily crush many extremely large worlds. However, none of that power of death could get close to him. He had been in this space for half a year. His source origin had been shining on its own, causing the power of death in this space to be unable to get close to him. However, after half a year, he still could not find a way out of this space. Let's look for it again, he muttered to himself as he walked in this battlefield of great devastation. In the blink of an eye, another half a year had passed. After another half a year, he still could not find a way out. On this day, he simply stopped and did not look for a way out. Fengshen Tianzuan said before that the battlefield of great devastation is intertwined with endless death energy and is a dangerous place. However, at the same time, it also contains endless life energy. If I can draw it out, it will be a super divine treasure. Chapter 2191. After an entire year, Lin Tian was still unable to find a way out of the battlefield of great devastation. Finally, he gave up. He recalled that Fengshen Tianzuan had mentioned that the battlefield of great devastation was a land of death, but it was also a land of fortune and contained boundless life energy. On this day, he came up with an idea to draw out the boundless life energy hidden within the battlefield of great devastation. As long as he could draw out the boundless life energy, the benefits it would bring to him would be unimaginable. He took a deep breath and began to do just that. Where is the life energy hidden? He muttered to himself. The battlefield of great devastation contained an endless amount of life force. However, it was very difficult to sense that kind of life force, and it was unknown exactly where it was stored. As he walked through the battlefield of great devastation, he began to ponder on how to draw out the life force contained within this space. This was a very difficult task. As he walked through the battlefield of great devastation, he thought of various methods and experimented with them. He stood silently in one place for several months. He used his powerful sovereign level consciousness to search, but to no avail. He propped up the perfect world to assist in his search, but to no avail. He tried to use a strand of light of origin to assist in his search, but to no avail. Another year passed, and he finally reacted to the rainbow divine sword in his sea of consciousness. He summoned the divine sword, but to no avail. In the following period of time, he tried one method after another, but to no avail. Time continued to pass quickly. In the blink of an eye, 100 years had passed since he entered the battlefield of great devastation. During these 100 years, he tried all sorts of methods, but to no avail. He couldn't sense the life energy, and at the same time, he couldn't find a way out. However, relatively fortunately, his special samsara physique allowed him to always be extremely safe within the grand obliteration battlefield, and he'd never been corroded by the terrifying energy of death within the grand obliteration battlefield. He'd always been fine. After that, time continued to pass quickly. Another 3 years passed. On this day, he felt a faint burning pain in his eyes. Afterwards, he opened the eye of destiny once more. 9 black moons appeared in each of his eyes, making them look extremely mysterious. This was the 4th time he had opened the eye of destiny. In just an instant, the dusky battlefield of great devastation suddenly became much brighter in his field of vision. It was also at this moment that his expression changed slightly. "I see it." Joy appeared on his face. As his eye of destiny opened, the entire world changed. Nothing could hide from his eyes of destiny. At this moment, in this great obliteration battlefield that was covered in the energy of death, he saw strands of pure white radiance that were incomparably pure and contained within the void. They were covered and suppressed by the energy of death, and they were unable to move out from within the void. Looking at this scene, he was very clear that it was impossible to draw out the boundless life force contained within the void using ordinary methods. Either the death force in this space had reached an even more frightening level, crushing the void and causing the life force within to drift out, or the strength of an ordinary transcending heaven expert could forcibly draw it out. Right now, he couldn't make the power of death in this place explode and crush the void, causing the power of life to flow out. He didn't have the battle prowess of an ordinary, heavenly master cultivator, but he wasn't in a hurry. He could still draw out the power of life in the void because he had the eye of destiny now. He could draw out the power of destiny that surpassed order and draw out the power of life through the void. His eyes flickered, and the faintly discernible karmic luck of the great shattered battlefield immediately surged out, circling around him in wisps. Then, with a thought, he used the power of karmic luck to shake the void in the battlefield of great destruction. Just as he had expected, the void shook, and the power of life within it swiftly flowed out under the guidance of the karmic luck. In just an instant, the great obliteration battlefield was no longer as gloomy as before. It was filled with life. "Very good." A gleam flashed through his eyes, and he immediately circulated the Reincarnation Heart Sutra. The life force that surged out from the void immediately surged into his body. Under the refinement of the Reincarnation Heart Sutra, it began to temper his flesh, blood, tendons, bones, saint chi, consciousness, and soul. This caused his essence, vitality, and spirit to rise at an extremely fast speed. His cultivation also became stronger strand by strand. In the Xianwang universe, in the center of an extremely large world, a palace of the celestial court collapsed. The cultivators of the celestial court who were stationed here had all died. The azure-robed man, Shun Qi, the little Taichu, and the white tiger resided here. Shun Qi raised his hand and took out a jade bottle. An extremely dense aura of life interwove within. Find a place to refine the essence of life inside, and you'll be able to go further on the path of becoming a ruler, Shun Qi said. 100 years had passed. Back then, Lin Tian had used the power of destiny to completely remove the deep-rooted negative energy in her consciousness. In these 100 years, she had completely recovered. Now that she had condensed a physical body, she had been completely reborn. However, although she had been reborn, her strength had yet to fully recover. she was still far from her peak state. If she wanted to return to her peak state, it would be impossible without tens of thousands of years. Even so, her current combat strength was still strong enough. The ordinary 72 winged elders of the Heaven Protector clan were far from her match. In these 100 years, she and the azure-robed man had been searching for Lin Tian's traces. At the same time, they had obtained many jade bottles containing endless essence of life for the little Taichu and the white tiger. As a result, the little Taichu and the white tiger had reached the ruler realm in these 100 years. Where did Lin Tian go? The little Taichu stood on Shen Qi's shoulder and muttered to himself. The great destruction of the black-yellow universe was far from over because the universe was too big. Even a colossus like the Celestial Court would have to spend a long time to destroy a universe. In these 100 years, they had walked through every corner of the black-yellow universe, looking for Lin Tian every day. However, they had not found any clues. Next to them, the white tiger sighed and was worried. Don't worry. He has the potential to catch up to a human king. He will be fine. Let's continue to search. Shen Qi comforted. Even so, there was still worry in her eyes. After all, Lin Tian was her daughter's husband. Yes, if it's him, he will definitely be fine, the azure-robed man said. At the same time, there was also worry in his eyes. Yeah, the little Taichu nodded and lay down on Shen Qi's shoulder. Now that Shen Qi had reformed her physical body and retracted her 72-wing body, she looked no different from Wu Yi. The little guy felt very warm and relaxed on Shen Qi's shoulder, as if it was by Wu Yi's side. Wu Yi and Lin Tian were the people it liked the most, even more than the immortal spirit emperor and its mother, whom it had never met. The battlefield of great destruction won. Lin Tian opened his eye of destiny. The power of destiny intertwined and drew out more and more life force. Life force surged in every corner of the battlefield of great destruction and gathered toward him, forming a long river of life in front of him. Chapter 2192. Boundless life force surged out of the void, forming a river of life that poured into Lin Tian's body. Lin Tian circulated the Reincarnation Sutra. 9-colored light interweaved around his body as he rapidly refined the life force. At the same time, he closed his eyes of destiny. Since the void had already been opened up by the power of fate, the life force within him would continue to pour out. He no longer needed to maintain the eyes of destiny. That would be too much of a burden on him. The life force continued to flow into his body. His essence, energy, and spirit continued to rise. His cultivation base also rose rapidly. More and more life force surged into his body. Soon, the river of life here became even more vast, as if it was about to transform into a universe of life force. Lin Tian resided in the middle of the river of life. Not only did his vital energies and cultivation increase, but his physical body also became tougher and stronger as the life force poured into him. Time passed quickly. In the blink of an eye, 3 months had passed. After 3 months, the life force in the battlefield of devastation didn't weaken at all. Instead, it became even denser. Even more life force surged out of the void. On this day, Lin Tian opened his eyes. His cultivation had reached the mid-layer of the ruler realm. I can enter the void plane. He raised his head and glanced at the life energy in the great devastated battlefield that had become even denser than before. A bright light flashed through his eyes. Then he closed his eyes again. The Reincarnation Sutra circulated even faster as he refined the life force that constantly poured out of the void. For a moment, the 9-colored light around him gradually became even more resplendent, almost illuminating the surroundings. Time continued to pass. In the blink of an eye, another 5 months had passed. The life force in the area had become much thinner. At the same time, on this day, the battlefield of great devastation suddenly shook violently. The already dim space suddenly became even dimmer as a terrifying lightning vortex appeared in the middle of the battlefield of great devastation. Bolts of blood-colored lightning were mixed within it, and every single bolt of blood-colored lightning seemed like a furious dragon that could destroy the heavens and the earth. Dong! Thunder rumbled, as if it wanted to shatter everything. A destructive aura covered the sky and covered the earth from within the huge lightning vortex. Within this great devastation battlefield, pieces of rubble immediately collapsed and turned into yellow sand. The life force that interweaved around Lin Tian also became chaotic because of this. It was also at this time that Lin Tian opened his eyes. Lightning flashed in his eyes as he looked up at the lightning vortex. During these 8 months, he had refined the boundless life energy of the great shattered battlefield using the Reincarnation Heart Sutra. On this day, he had forcefully stepped into the void heaven realm. Thus, the void heaven lightning punishment descended. Dong! Another clap of thunder resounded through the surroundings, and the entire great devastated battlefield couldn't help but shake as space collapsed into pieces. Lin Tian was at the center of this lightning punishment. As he looked at the blood-red lightning flashing continuously in the sky, he could clearly feel how terrifying the destructive power contained within was. However, his expression did not change at all. Come! He looked into the lightning vortex and said this word. As he said this word, there seemed to be some kind of great will within the lightning vortex that felt that he was provoking it. Immediately, there was an ear-piercing sound of thunder. Then, the first round of lightning punishment descended with a terrifying momentum. This was a beam of blood-red lightning about 3 meters in diameter. Under the sky-piercing realm, almost no one could block it. Lin Tian faced this round of lightning punishment. Without any superfluous movements, he raised his hand and met it with a simple punch. With a loud bang, his fist collided with the lightning, causing it to dissipate into nothingness. Come again. He looked at the lightning vortex and said again. Now that he had stepped into the void heaven realm, his physical body had undergone a huge qualitative change. His pure physical strength was not much weaker than an ordinary transcending heaven realm expert. It was naturally very easy for him to deal with this first round of lightning punishment. Looking at the rolling lightning in the sky, he said, "Come again," and took out the immortal Emperor Pagoda. The immortal Emperor Pagoda was forged from primordial heavenly crystals. It was his divine origin weapon, and he had never stopped refining it. Boom! The sky exploded, and the second round of lightning punishment immediately pressed down. This was a huge lightning mountain. Each mountain was exaggeratedly huge and was completely formed by blood-red lightning. It was so lifelike that it seemed as if it really existed. Lin Tian faced the immortal Emperor Pagoda and let it be tempered and baptized by this destructive lightning punishment. Immediately after, a bright light intertwined in his eyes. He paused for a moment, then took a step forward without any defense or attack. He directly stepped into the huge lightning mountain that was pressing down on him. Boom! The rolling lightning punishment drowned him and the immortal Emperor Pagoda in the blink of an eye. The immortal Emperor Pagoda was immediately shattered. Then his physical body was smashed into pieces and blood splattered everywhere. He panted slightly. The Reincarnation Heart Sutra automatically operated to refine the destructive lightning power that lingered in his body. At the same time, he rebuilt the shattered immortal Emperor Pagoda. Come again! He looked up at the sky and said. He was using the lightning to refine the immortal Emperor Pagoda. At the same time, he was also using the destructive lightning to refine his physical body. He purposely didn't resist and was prepared to use the destructive lightning to refine his physique and strengthen it. Moreover, it was not just his physical body. Under the baptism of this lightning punishment, his spirit would also become stronger. Boom! Thunder boomed in the sky again. The third round of lightning punishment pressed down. After that, the fourth round, fifth round, sixth round, round after round, the main lightning punishment continued to descend from the heavens. Soon, a total of 10 rounds of lightning punishment had passed. Lin Tian endured the lightning punishment power without any resistance. His physical body was shattered several times in a row, and he used the destructive lightning punishment power to temper his body. In a short time, his physical body was strengthened by 3 times. At this point, When the 11th round of tribulation lightning came crashing down, it was difficult for him to endure it without putting up any resistance. The reincarnation forging spiritual technique and 5 heaven-shaking lightning art were activated for the first time, and they began to shatter the descending lightning. As for the immortal Emperor Pagoda, he still did not care about it. He continued to let it endure the more terrifying lightning punishment. He was not worried about the immortal Emperor Pagoda being destroyed because it was his origin divine weapon, forged from primordial chaos heavenly crystal. Under normal circumstances, as long as he did not die, the immortal Emperor Pagoda would always exist. Unless it was someone far stronger than him who could destroy the immortal Emperor Pagoda without killing him, forcibly erasing the connection between the immortal Emperor Pagoda and his origin divine weapon. And such an existence would have to be at least 3 realms higher than him. This void heaven lightning punishment obviously did not reach such a terrifying level of power. Boom! Thunder rumbled and the sky shook. Chapter 2193. The 18th round of lightning punishment descended. Lin Tian could feel that this was the last round of lightning punishment in this void heaven tribulation. And this last round of main lightning punishment was so familiar. Recently, he had experienced heavenly tribulations time and time again. The final round of main lightning punishment was all like this. The lightning punishment didn't change at all. It was just that the destructive power of each tribulation was stronger than the previous one. This made him frown involuntarily. No matter how he looked at it, this was very unusual. Boom! The sky shook. Thunder roared in the heavenly tribulation vortex. Dense lightning shadows appeared and pressed down together. Angels with broken wings, headless knights, immortals with broken arms, ferocious ghosts, and blind blood shadows. They were all condensed from lightning, as if they were real. There was no expression on their faces, and their destructive auras were terrifying. Such a round of main lightning punishment caused even someone as strong as Lin Tian to involuntarily feel an enormous amount of pressure. He took a deep breath and used the Taiji Divine Domain to protect his body. The reincarnation forging spiritual technique increased his battle power by 20 times. The Divine Way of Thunder and the 5 heaven-shaking thunder incantation, as well as other techniques and Deities that could weaken the power of the heavenly tribulation to a certain extent, were all used at the same time. At this moment, he directly displayed his current peak battle power. He used all kinds of techniques to face the lightning shadows that filled the sky. Boom! 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 There were many lightning silhouettes, and they all rushed toward him. He used his Tai Chi Divine Domain to protect himself, and he used all kinds of great arts to destroy the lightning silhouettes. However, new lightning silhouettes kept emerging from the lightning vortex and continued to press toward him. Boom! In the terrifying lightning vortex, thunder roared again, shaking the surroundings. Cracks began to appear on the enormous great shattered battlefield because of this. At the same time, in the lightning vortex in the sky, as dense lightning shadows rushed out, a strange image suddenly appeared. It was like a sea market in the middle of the vortex. It was a vast land, and there were tall gods and demons walking. Their limbs were shackled, and they were being chased away. This is... As Lin Tianyi shattered one lightning shadow after another, his expression changed as he looked at the lightning vortex. He did not know what this image was, nor did he know how it had appeared. However, even just from this image, he could sense the terror of the fiend god within it. It could definitely crush an ordinary transcending heaven expert with ease. However, in that scene, such a group of tyrannical existences were actually being chained and enslaved. This shocked him. Was this scene real? If it was true, how terrifying would it be? What kind of place, what kind of power, and what kind of existence could drive out and enslave such a group of gods and devils? Dong! The lightning vortex violently shook as another ear-piercing boom rang out. The entire great shattered battlefield seemed to be on the verge of collapsing. More and more lightning shadows gushed out from the lightning vortex. Each of them was surrounded by a terrifying aura of destruction. At the same time, The strange image in the lightning vortex gradually became blurry and then disappeared. What the hell is that? Lin Tian's eyes were still filled with shock. The scene he had just seen was simply too shocking. Dong! Another ear-piercing clap of thunder rang out from the lightning vortex, and even more lightning shadows surged out from it. Moreover, at this moment, the destructive aura of the lightning shadow that was drawn out from it became even more terrifying. Lin Tian immediately calmed himself down and temporarily stopped thinking about the previous scene. He began to focus on transcending the tribulation. Boom! He used the Tai Chi Divine Domain to protect his body as he circulated the Reincarnation Heart Sutra, Reincarnation Soul Forging Technique, 5 Heaven-Shaking Lightning Incantation, and other magical arts. He clashed with the lightning shadows that rushed out of the lightning vortex, shattering them one after another. Just like this, an hour passed in the blink of an eye. After an hour, as the last lightning shadow was destroyed, the lightning vortex in the sky shook violently. Then, the lightning vortex began to disperse, and the destructive aura gradually disappeared. The void heaven tribulation thus dispersed. Wong! In the sky, as the tribulation dispersed, 7-colored auspicious clouds appeared. An incomparably rich power of heaven and earth appeared above Lin Tian's head. Immediately, 7-colored light sprinkled down and enveloped Lin Tian. This light flowed into Lin Tian's body, causing the injuries caused by Lin Tian's tribulation to quickly heal. Lin Tian naturally knew how extraordinary this light was. He immediately circulated the Reincarnation Heart Sutra and took the initiative to absorb this light to temper his body. At the same time, he also used it to stabilize his current void heaven realm cultivation base. Just like this, a quarter of an hour passed quickly. The 7-colored auspicious clouds completely disappeared, and so did the 7-colored light. Outside Lin Tian's body, faint light intertwined. He truly stood firmly at the level of the virtual sky world. His flesh shell was indestructible, almost comparable to an ordinary transcending heaven realm cultivator. With a gentle wave of his hand, the sound of thunder could be heard. Moreover, his spirit had become even more tyrannical. The saint power in his body was boundless, as if it would never dry up. Good! He muttered to himself, and his eyes couldn't help but flash. He had just entered the void heaven realm, but with his physique and his body and spirit that were forcibly tempered by the void heaven lightning punishment, he was 100% confident that no one under the transcending heaven realm could be his match. Next, he looked to the side and waved his hand, causing the violet light to fly toward him. These were the primordial fragments of the immortal Emperor Pagoda. Under his will, they quickly reformed, and the immortal Emperor Pagoda reformed. At this time, the immortal Emperor Pagoda had more lightning seals. It naturally emitted a tribulation lightning aura. It was extremely young and tough, extremely pure, as if it could suppress everything. This made him nod inwardly. After he repeatedly tempered the immortal Emperor Pagoda with the lightning punishment, the result of this pagoda's growth made him very satisfied. Now, in a head-on collision, this void heaven realm immortal Emperor Pagoda would not be inferior to some ordinary transcending heaven realm divine weapons. He paused, and with a thought, the immortal Emperor Pagoda returned to his body. Then, he recalled the previous scene. Was it a real projection or an illusory scene? He frowned. A divine devil that could easily crush ordinary, transcending heaven realm cultivators was actually driven and enslaved like a slave. That scene was too frightening. The great, devastated battlefield was dark. He stood in place, thinking about the previous scene. Unfortunately, he couldn't think of a reason and couldn't be sure whether it was real or not. Chapter 2194. The scene of the heavenly tribulation was too shocking, causing Lin Tian to be unable to calm down for a long time. He pondered over the authenticity of that scene, but in the end, he really couldn't be sure, so he gradually stopped thinking about it. He shook his head, minding his own business, and re-examined the battlefield of great devastation. After the illusory heaven tribulation, The battlefield of great devastation had become even more dilapidated. The amount of life force that lingered in the surroundings had greatly decreased, but in terms of quantity, it was still extremely shocking and vigorous. Lin Tian was certain that once he finished refining all the life force here and used it to cultivate, he would at least be able to reach the middle stage of the illusory sky realm, or even the peak of the illusory sky realm. He immediately sat down without hesitation, circulating the Reincarnation Heart Sutra and continuing to absorb the life force. As he circulated the Reincarnation Heart Sutra, 9 colored radiance intertwined around his body, gradually becoming more and more resplendent. His essence, energy, and spirit rose strand by strand, and his cultivation rose along with it. In the entire battlefield of great devastation, life force continuously surged in from all directions, pouring into his body. He used this life force to cultivate and raise his cultivation. At the same time, he propped up his perfect world, borrowing this life force to evolve it and allow it to continue growing. Within his perfect world, as life force poured in and refined the great mountains, they became even taller and more majestic. The spiritual energy in the entire world became even more abundant, and the dome of heaven gradually became even more vast. This was a true great world, possessing extraordinary divine might. By strengthening it, it would be of great use to his battle prowess. He believed that it would be extremely effective in future battles. Just like that, in this battlefield of great devastation, he used the life force to cultivate his body while also evolving his perfect world. In the blink of an eye, a full 5 months passed. 5 months later, on this day, the life force in the battlefield of great devastation was finally completely refined. The entire space once again became dense with an aura of death, and the Yin fog became even thicker, making it seem somewhat cold. It was also on this day that Lin Tian opened his eyes. 2 streaks of light flashed through his eyes, causing the space around him to distort. Middle void sky. As the life energy in this battlefield of great devastation was completely refined, his cultivation had reached the middle stage of the void sky realm. Moreover, with the help of this vast life energy, the perfect world in his body had grown a lot, becoming 100 times stronger than before. He stood up, combined with the perfect world, and secretly sensed his current strength, then nodded in his heart. Now that he didn't have to use the Eye of Destiny or the Rainbow Godly Sword, he felt that he could even fight against an ordinary heavenly master for a short period of time. Of course, he would only be able to contend against a heaven-piercing realm expert for a short period of time. It was impossible for him to kill a heaven-piercing realm expert or fight a heaven-piercing realm expert for a long period of time. After all, the difference in strength between a void sky realm expert and a heaven-piercing realm expert was huge. Even if he had the supreme reincarnation body, it was difficult for him to rely on his own strength to fight a heaven-piercing realm expert for a long period of time, or even kill a heaven-piercing realm expert. Fate luck, I'm quite lucky, he muttered to himself. After being sucked into this great devastation battlefield by the vortex of fate and using the boundless life force to refine his body, he had gained too many benefits. His cultivation base had increased by more than 1 level. If he had cultivated normally, it would have taken him at least a few thousand years. At the same time, he suddenly thought that since he had started cultivating, his luck had always been very good. He had always been able to find all kinds of extraordinary treasures of heaven and earth and divine items. Could this be because he had the Eye of Destiny? All this time, there had been some kind of fate around him that he couldn't see. Was that why his luck was so many times better than other people's? As he thought about it, he suddenly felt that although this conjecture was a little mysterious and illusory, it was very possible. Eye of Destiny, fate. Speaking of which, how did I get these eyes? He was a little confused. Previously, he had heard the voice of the divine key. There were 3 ultimate eye techniques in the world: the Rinnegan Eye, the Space-Time Eye, and the Eye of Destiny. Under normal circumstances, as a reincarnation body, he should have the Rinnegan Eye. How could he have the Eye of Destiny? As he thought about this question, he became even more confused. He even felt that it was very strange. This seemed a little abnormal. He thought to himself, but in the end he still couldn't figure it out. Forget it. After a few dozen breaths, he shook his head. He couldn't be bothered to think about it. After all, he really couldn't figure out this matter. Moreover, this wasn't a bad thing. After all, the Eye of Destiny was one of the strongest eye techniques. It was a power that far surpassed order. After that, he once again sized up the battlefield of great devastation. The life force had been completely drawn out and refined. At this time, he had to find a way out of this place. He immediately tried to use his Void Heaven Realm strength to blast a way out. Unfortunately, in the end, it was to no avail. It seemed that only ascending Heaven Realm strength could do that. How did Fengshen Tianzuan and the others enter the battlefield of great devastation? How did they leave in the end? He was suddenly curious. The battlefield of great devastation wasn't located in any of the great universes that currently existed. To enter and leave the battlefield of great devastation, one needed at least ascending Heaven Realm strength. However, Fengshen Tianzuan and the others had entered the battlefield of great devastation before reaching ascending Heaven Realm, and then left the battlefield of great devastation. This made him very confused. However, this confusion quickly dissipated. After all, those people weren't ordinary people. Nameless was a descendant of the ancient god clan. The Celestial Spirit Emperor was a member of the Celestial Spirit Imperial family, and Fengshen Tianzuan and the others were even more so. They were disciples of the human king, the disciples of such an invincible existence. It wasn't surprising that they could do something that seemed impossible. He shook his head again. He no longer used his strength to blast the battlefield of great devastation. Instead, he tried to explore with his divine will to see if he could find a way out. Then, in the blink of an eye, several months passed. He still didn't find anything. I can only wait until I open the Eye of Destiny again or summon the divine sword. Only then will I be able to leave this place. He muttered to himself. The Eye of Destiny could mobilize the power of destiny. With his current Void Heaven Realm cultivation, killing ordinary ascending Heaven Realm experts would be as easy as cutting grass. The Rainbow Divine Sword was also very powerful. Once it was summoned, it could also kill ascending Heaven Realm experts. If he could use these two, he could easily leave this battlefield of great devastation. However, whether it was the Eye of Destiny or the Rainbow Divine Sword, he couldn't freely control them now. He had to wait until the right time. For a moment, he paused in place. After a few breaths, he thought of another matter. Just as well. Before I can open the Eye of Destiny again or summon the Rainbow Divine Sword, I can create other divine techniques that are suitable for me. Chapter 2195. More than 100 years ago, Lin Tian had created his own core ancient scripture, the Reincarnation Heart Sutra. However, he hadn't created any divine powers or secret techniques for attacking. He was still using the techniques of Fengshen Tianzuan and the others. Even the Tai Chi Divine Domain that he had created wasn't compatible with the Reincarnation Heart Sutra. There were some flaws that needed to be improved. Now, he couldn't open the Eye of Destiny for the time being, and he couldn't summon the Rainbow Godly Sword in a short period of time. Before that, he felt that he could use this battlefield of great destruction to create his own divine powers and secret techniques that were compatible with the Reincarnation Heart Sutra. This would be very important for his future cultivation. After all, if he wanted to become a true ultimate expert, he couldn't keep using other people's techniques. He had to create his own technique. Thinking of this, he immediately took action. He held up the perfect world and took out the Bodhi tree. The Bodhisattva tree was known as the Tree of Wisdom. Its branches and leaves were intertwined with strange patterns. It was natural and could help increase one's comprehension. In the process of creating such a technique, the help of the Bodhisattva tree would naturally be of great use. As he took out the Bodhi tree, this originally dusky battlefield of great devastation instantly lit up with a great deal of light. Moreover, the Bodhi tree started to purify the surrounding death energy. Lin Tian couldn't help but be surprised. As expected of a rare divine tree, he muttered to himself. He didn't know that the Bodhi tree could purify the evil chi of death. However, he thought about it. The Bodhi tree was called a divine tree by the Buddhist sect on the Milky Way imperial star. The Buddhist sect was auspicious and bright, which could suppress all evil. Therefore, it was normal that the Bodhi tree could purify the evil chi of death. Thinking of this, he quickly calmed himself down and started to perform the technique under the Bodhi tree. The Reincarnation Heart Sutra was operating on its own. He held up the Tai Chi Divine Domain. The Tai Chi Divine Domain was a defensive saint technique that he had created himself. It had amazing defensive power. However, this technique was created before he created the Reincarnation Heart Sutra, so it was not compatible with the Reincarnation Heart Sutra. Therefore, he planned to refine the Tai Chi domain so that it could be compatible with the Reincarnation Heart Sutra. Then it would be much easier to use, and its power would increase greatly. The Tai Chi divine domain was raised, and the innate yin and yang energy intertwined with each other. The yin-yang fished-out diagram was faintly discernible as he channeled the reincarnation scripture. With his powerful void heaven divine sense, he sensed the changes in the saint energy circulation and changed them one by one. Buzz! Outside his body, the nine-colored holy light and the yin and yang treasured light resonated with each other, causing the Taiji domain to shake violently from time to time. At the same time, the Bodhi tree swayed on its own and shone brightly. Lin Tian, who was under the Bodhi tree, felt extremely ethereal. His mind was constantly filled with inspiration, and his understanding of the Taiji divine domain was very smooth. In the blink of an eye, a month passed. A month later, the Tai Chi divine domain, which was originally black and white, began to change. It now had 9 colors, and it became even more crystalline and stable. Good! A sharp light flashed through his eyes. In the past month, under the Bodhi tree, he had improved the Tai Chi divine domain. Now, it was extremely compatible with the reincarnation scripture. I'll change the name as well. Reincarnation divine domain. He muttered to himself. When it came to naming techniques, he had always been particular about simplicity and straightforwardness. Since he was a reincarnated body, the ancient divine techniques he created were all named after reincarnation. Only he, a reincarnated body, could use the techniques he created to their fullest potential. As the reincarnation scripture circulated, the reincarnation divine domain formed a 9-colored halo around him. Its defensive power was unparalleled, and it was almost impossible to break through. With the support of the reincarnation divine domain, he continued to improve it. 3 days later, he put it away. Next, light flashed in his eyes. He had a defensive divine technique, and now he only had offensive divine techniques and secret footwork techniques left. He first decided to create an offensive technique. There were many offensive techniques, so he thought about it and decided to create a fist technique and a sword technique. He had the ultimate king body, and his flesh was indestructible. It was most suitable for close-range combat. At the same time, he liked close-range combat. He liked the feeling of close-range combat, where he could fight the world with one punch and one sword. He took a deep breath and created a fist technique first. Since he started cultivating, he had come across many fist techniques. At first, it was the ordinary martial technique, the meteorite fist, and now it was the commonly used Chaos Emperor fist. He had also read many fist techniques in order to create techniques. At this time, all of them appeared in his mind. The way the saint power flowed, the combination of seals, and the changes of fist techniques flowed into his mind. He stood under the Bodhi tree, and as the various fist techniques appeared in his mind, his hands began to move slowly and powerfully. Naturally, the saint energy in his body began to change along with the movements of his hands. In this world, any divine technique or secret technique was the ultimate embodiment of the way the saint power flowed in the body. Under the Bodhi tree, he comprehended the various fist techniques and thought about the way the saint power flowed. Then he took advantage of the advantages and eliminated the disadvantages. Together with the evolution of the Reincarnation Heart Sutra, the saint power in his body changed again and again. The path of his hands also changed again and again. Sometimes it was like holding the mountain and moon, sometimes it was like a mud monkey exploring the sea, and sometimes it was like a rhinoceros capturing a dragon. Time passed little by little. He closed his eyes and created fist techniques under the Bodhi tree. In the blink of an eye, 3 months had passed. 3 months later, the force of his fists gradually became smooth from the initial random chaos. There was a faint trace of a special trajectory, and as his hands moved, there would occasionally be thunderous sounds that shook the surroundings. Then, in the blink of an eye, another month had passed. A month later, his fist techniques were simpler, and his fist techniques were more ordinary. However, the power of his fist was more terrifying. Boom! He still had his eyes closed, and with a simple and slow punch, the surrounding space shook violently. It was as if a Saint drum was being beaten, or as if a lightning punishment was about to descend. It revealed a violent and domineering aura, and its aura spread in all directions. Around him, the space began to crack, unable to withstand the power of his fist. Even the Bodhi tree was trembling. However, he did not seem to be aware of this. His fists were still moving, and the power of his fist was even more violent. Vaguely, a blurry image of a vision appeared behind him. The sky was collapsing, the earth was cracking, and the magma was boiling. Soon, another month had passed in the blink of an eye. On this day, as he moved his fist suddenly trembled. Some cracks appeared on his arm, and blood flowed out. The power of his fist was too domineering, and he had hurt himself. It was also at this time that he woke up. I'm just a little bit away from success. Chapter 2196. He would make up for the updates he owed today by next Saturday and the end of next week. Chapter 2197. Lin Tian's arm had cracked during the demonstration because the fist technique he was demonstrating was too overbearing. For a moment, Lin Tian was unable to freely control that overbearing power. There was a flaw in it, so he was injured by the overbearing power of the fist technique. However, this was not a big problem. He paused for a moment and continued to deduce the fist technique. The Reincarnation Heart Sutra operated on its own. His hands moved, and the sound of thunder reverberated. His every move gradually became smoother, and his aura became more stable. Behind him, ancient stars appeared vaguely, and they were powerful enough to swallow mountains and rivers. At the same time, the cracked part of his arm repaired itself under the circulation of the Reincarnation Heart Sutra. In the blink of an eye, it was healed. Lightning arcs intertwined on the surface of his skin, and they sizzled as he waved his fist. Boom! The space around him trembled violently as he continued to perform his punches. All the ancient techniques that he had comprehended flashed in his mind one by one. The flow of various saint energies continued to change in his body, causing his punches to become sharper and more stable at the same time. He was no longer injured by the overbearing punches like he was at the beginning. Time flew by, and another half a year passed. During this half a year, he had never stopped practicing his fist technique under the Bodhi tree. His fist technique changed constantly, and his fist technique grew continuously. When he punched out, 99 true dragons appeared behind him. They roared into the sky, shattering the vast void. The second punch was thrown, and numerous large stars that seemed to be real appeared, pressing down with the force of his fist. The surging aura was shocking to hear, as if a vast and boundless starry sky had condensed and was pushed forward with his fist. When he punched out the third time, a vision of a broken sky appeared behind him, as if the end of the world had arrived. The fourth time, the fifth time, the sixth time, as he punched out again and again, the entire great shattered battlefield shook, causing space to collapse in large swaths. He was extremely domineering, like a peerless demon god standing between heaven and earth. Every punch seemed to be able to easily destroy the world. Walala! The Bodhi tree's branches and leaves were covered with mysterious runes. Now, as he punched out, they swayed uncontrollably. Saint light overflowed from the Bodhi tree and fell on him, causing his aura to become even more stable. At the same time, it became even more ferocious and domineering. Just like that, half a year passed in the blink of an eye. Another half a year later, on this day, he finally stopped practicing. Reincarnation fist. He clenched his right hand into a fist. Before he could swing it, the surrounding space shook and was annihilated. He deduced the fist art under the Bodhi tree. All kinds of ancient techniques flashed through his mind one by one. He picked the best ones and got rid of the bad ones. He then refined them and deduced them continuously. He spent about 2 years and finally created his own fist art on this day. He named it the Reincarnation Fist. It was completely compatible with the Reincarnation Heart Sutra. It was a fist art that only he could unleash to the extreme. He was very satisfied. He had the Reincarnation Heart Sutra, the Reincarnation Divine Domain for defense, the Reincarnation Fist for attack, and the Reincarnation God-slaying technique for soul attacks. He had created all of these by himself. They were techniques that truly belonged to him. With the Reincarnation Source and the Reincarnation Heart Sutra, he could unleash his potential to the fullest. Sword play, he muttered to himself. Without stopping, he engraved the Reincarnation Fist in his mind. Under the Bodhi tree, he began to deduce his own sword art. One of the reasons why he practiced sword art was that the sword was a king's weapon. He liked sword art and the feeling of wielding the sword. Another point was that there was a peerless divine sword in his sea of consciousness, which had unfathomable power. In the future, if he used a sword technique that was completely compatible with him and this peerless divine sword, he would definitely be able to maximize his combat strength. Then, just like how he deduced the Reincarnation Fist, he began to deduce his sword art. Since he embarked on the path of cultivation, he had cultivated and come in contact with too many techniques. Among them, he had come in contact with the divine powers of the sword art the most. In other words, in the entire cultivation world, the divine powers of the sword art were the most common. He comprehended the many sword manuals that he had come in contact with under the Bodhi tree. He then refined them as a whole and used them according to the different stages of the flow of saint energy. At the same time, he combined his own comprehension with the help of the Bodhi tree and condensed the divine sword of saint energy under the Bodhi tree. He performed the various flows of saint energy in his body as he waved the sword. The sword had to be fast, sharp, and fierce. He continued to practice, and from time to time, there would be a sonorous sword chime. Time passed quickly. In a flash, half a month had passed. The longer he stayed under the Bodhi tree, the sharper his divine awareness and comprehension became, and the smoother his deduction became. Clang! The sword chime reverberated, and cracks appeared in the space around him. The spatial turbulence continued to flow. From time to time, there would be a sword light condensed by saint energy appearing by his side. It had 9 colors, and it was fierce and sharp. With a thought, the saint energy light sword beside him rushed out. In an instant, it pierced through several large rocks, tens of thousands of feet away, and shattered them. Even the surrounding void was annihilated. Whether it was the speed or the power of the sword, it was terrifyingly strong. However, this did not meet his requirements. He did not stop. His eyes were slightly closed, and he continued to practice his sword technique under the Bodhi tree as if he was sleepwalking. As time passed, the sword momentum he emitted became more and more fierce. In his body, the way the saint energy flowed was constantly changing. From time to time, he would form seals to make the saint energy in his body flow more smoothly. Then, the speed of his sword and the power of the sword light were strengthened and increased. In the blink of an eye, a full year had passed. 1 year later, on this day, the power of the sword he emitted had reached an extremely terrifying level. With just a thought, the sword light appeared, and in the blink of an eye, it shattered a large rock hundreds of thousands of feet away, and a terrifying black hole was formed. Such speed and power of the sword could be said to be very shocking. If someone saw it, even an ordinary divine master would be shocked. Clang! In his body, the sword chimes sounded, and the 7-colored light flowed. The 7-colored divine sword in his sea of consciousness vibrated, as if it had some reaction to the sword technique he was practicing. A light flashed in Lin Tian's eyes. With a thought, he summoned the 7-colored divine sword from his sea of consciousness. The 7-colored sword light intertwined outside the divine sword. The divine runes on the sword were incomprehensible and seem to have supreme power. To be able to make you react and feel the same as me, it's a great achievement. Looking at the seven-colored divine sword in his hand, the light in Lin Tian's eyes intensified. Reincarnation sword. For more than a year, he kept practicing, and on this day, he finally created his own sword superpower. Holding the seven-colored divine sword, he looked at the boundless sky. The reincarnation sword technique was activated, and he swung his sword. Chapter 2198. The space portal appeared horizontally, intertwining with silver light. The seven-colored divine sword returned to his sea of consciousness. Lin Tian looked at the space portal and waved his hand to take the Bodhi tree into his perfect world. Now it was time to leave. He glanced at the battlefield of great devastation one last time, took a simple step, and disappeared into the space portal in the blink of an eye. In an instant, his vision became dim. He entered the space portal and disappeared from the battlefield of great devastation. Then, after an unknown period of time, a glimmer of light appeared in front of him in the dim vision. The void in the space portal shook slightly, and a strong vibration shook him out. He stepped on solid ground again. As far as the eye could see, there were immortal mountains and ancient peaks around him. The immortal spiritual chi was extremely rich, almost the same as the void celestial realm. Ah! Screams came from not far away, and the air was mixed with a strong smell of blood. Looking around, there were groups of practitioners. Some of them were wearing the unique armor of the celestial court, while others were wearing different clothes. There were not many of them, only a dozen of them. Blood was scattered on the ground. Obviously, many people had died here before. Black-yellow universe. I'm back. Lin Tian muttered to himself. The celestial soldiers and generals of the celestial court were fighting in this world. There was no doubt that this place belonged to the black-yellow universe. He was not surprised. When he summoned the seven-colored divine sword, he slashed out with it by sensing the aura of the black-yellow universe. Therefore, the end of the space portal was naturally the black-yellow universe. How long will this great devastation last? He muttered to himself. More than 100 years had passed since he was swept into the battlefield of great devastation by the vortex of fate. He returned to the black-yellow universe after more than 100 years. The great devastation of the black-yellow universe was still ongoing. It was hard to say how long it would take to end. There's a human standing over there. Kill him. Not far away, the celestial soldiers and generals of the celestial court found Lin Tian. Immediately, one of them stepped over. This was an expert of the eighth heaven of the Saint King realm. His aura was very strong, much stronger than that of ordinary Saint Kings. In the blink of an eye, this person arrived in front of Lin Tian. Without saying a word, he directly slashed his sword at Lin Tian. Lin Tian did not react. At this time, he looked towards the east of this world, as if he did not see this person. The aura of the Heaven Protector clan. He narrowed his eyes. There are people from that clan in this world. They can't be considered weak. It was also at this moment that the eighth heaven Saint King's sword light landed on his head. Chi! He did not react. He stared at the east of the world. The sword light that was about to fall on his head collapsed on its own. Then, a ring of formless saint force rippled out. With a poof, it destroyed the Saint King cultivator who had attacked. This is what happened. In the distance, a group of celestial soldiers and generals naturally saw this scene. All of them could not help but be moved. They clearly did not see Lin Tian take action earlier, but the Saint King who attacked Lin Tian collapsed on his own accord. He's not simple. Let's work together and kill him. There were more than 100 celestial soldiers and generals. The strongest was at the peak of the Saint King realm. At this time, it was just the right time to kill the other people who did not belong to the celestial court. At the same time, they stepped towards Lin Tian. Killing lights fell on him. Lin Tian looked towards the east of this world. With a simple step, he instantly disappeared into the distance. At the same time, a large amount of sword light appeared where he was standing just now. In the blink of an eye, the group of heavenly soldiers and heavenly generals were all slashed into pieces. Not long after, in a mountain range in this world, a spatial portal appeared. Lin Tian stepped out from it. Boom! The mountain range was majestic, and ancient trees were everywhere. As far as the eye could see, there were dozens of people in front. They were digging in a piece of land. He immediately saw a young man with 14 wings on his back. His entire body was surrounded by purple saint light. There were dozens of other people beside him. All of them were at the void sky realm. Some of them were infinitely close to the heaven ascension realm. His gaze fell directly on the young man with 14 wings on his back. He walked forward. "What are you doing?" He had sensed the auras of the members of the Heaven Protector clan and rushed here. At this time, he saw that these people were living in this place and seemed to be doing something special, so he directly asked without hiding anything. In this place, the dozens of people were not weak, especially the 14-winged young man in the lead. His aura was very condensed, like a slumbering great beast of destruction. Just looking at him gave people a very frightening feeling. He was like a heavenly lord of destruction. Naturally, he noticed Lin Tian's appearance. At this time, his gaze fell on Lin Tian and immediately changed. Reincarnation body. This 14-winged young man clearly had a high status in the Heaven Protector clan. He immediately recognized Lin Tian. What? He's a reincarnation body? In this place, the other Void Sky realm experts were shocked. They couldn't see through Lin Tian's physique. They only knew about it from the 14-winged young man's words. However, they didn't doubt the 14-winged young man's words. After all, he was the third strongest person in the younger generation of the Heaven Protector clan. He was only half a step away from entering the Heaven Ascension realm. His status in the Heaven Protector clan wasn't low, and he knew many things. Since he said that Lin Tian was a reincarnation body, it must be true. Immediately, these people moved together. Void Sky, Saint Chi intertwined and surrounded Lin Tian in the blink of an eye. They were about to attack and suppress Lin Tian. A reincarnation body. This was a matter of great importance. "Stand down, I'll do it." A cold voice sounded. It was the 14-winged young man. The dozens of Void Sky realm experts were shocked and immediately retreated. Yes, Lord Shen Yin. They were clear about Shen Yin's strength. If Shen Yin wanted to suppress the person in front of them, they naturally felt that it was a very easy task. Shen Yin stepped forward and his gaze landed on Lin Tian. His cold eyes flashed with a sharp light. After all, the person in front of him was the reincarnation royal physique, which was far from an ordinary physique. However, even though there was a glint in his eyes, he was not afraid of Lin Tian. He was only a little concerned about the latter's physique. The legendary physique. If I can suppress you and hand you over to the elders in the clan, it will be a great achievement. Those elders in the clan will be very highly regarded. Speaking up to here, he suddenly stopped because Lin Tian had suddenly appeared in front of him, and he didn't see how Lin Tian moved at all. "You pa!" Lin Tian raised his hand and slapped his opponent's cheek. He slapped his opponent down from the void and landed on the ground with a loud bang. A human-shaped crater was formed on the ground, and sand flew everywhere. Then he landed as well. When his opponent struggled to stand up, he kicked him in the chest. Chapter 2199. Reincarnation Body. The 14-winged youth named Shen Yin from the Heaven Protector clan roared as he was stepped on by Lin Tian. His killing intent surged. He was the third youngest supreme of the Heaven Protector clan. His cultivation base had already reached the peak of the Void Sky realm. But now, he was being slapped by Lin Tian and stepped on by a group of celestial soldiers and celestial generals. He was extremely angry. To him, this was a great humiliation. Boom! Saint energy vibrated all over his body. Saint light shot into the sky, and an extremely terrifying killing intent rushed out. Hurricanes swept out, and he wanted to flip Lin Tian over and stand up again. Lin Tian stepped on this person's chest, his expression indifferent. The saint light that was mixed with endless killing intent surged around him, but it couldn't hurt him at all. He had spent more than 100 years in the great shattered battlefield. His cultivation base had reached the middle stage of the Void Sky realm, and he had created his own Abhijna's secret technique. With his current battle prowess, he could even fight against an ordinary immortal realm expert. Although this third young supreme of the Heaven Protector clan was very strong, compared to him, the difference was too great. Lin Tian stepped on this person's chest, and with a little force, he instantly shattered the endless saint light outside his body. The sound of bones cracking could be heard again. Xinyan couldn't help but let out a muffled groan. Then he became even angrier, and his killing intent became even stronger. He madly urged his saint power to break free from Lin Tian's foot. At the same time, the other dozens of Void Sky realm experts were all shocked. The third young supreme of the Heaven Protector clan was now being stepped on by Lin Tian. It seemed that he had no ability to resist at all. Then in the next moment, these people all came back to their senses. Without any hesitation, they all rushed towards Lin Tian. "Human, let go! Impudent thing! How could these people watch Shun Yin being treated like this by Lin Tian?" Shun Yan's status was very high. Everyone took action at this moment. All kinds of divine abilities and secret techniques pressed down on Lin Tian. They wanted to save Shun Yin. Lin Tian didn't even look at these people. In the next moment, a sharp sword light appeared beside him, intertwining with 9 different colors. The moment it appeared, it slashed in all directions. Its speed was so fast that it was almost impossible for people to catch the trajectory of the sword light. In the blink of an eye, the sword light shot out from between the eyebrows of dozens of Void Sky experts, bringing with it dozens of streams of blood. After that, the dozens of Void Sky powerhouses exploded at the same time, their bodies and souls annihilated at the same time. Such a scene caused Xun Yin to be stunned. He couldn't help but tremble. The dozens of Void Sky experts following him weren't weak. They were all at the peak of the Void Sky realm. But now, these dozens of people were all killed by Lin Tian in an instant. Most importantly, during the whole process, Lin Tian didn't even look at those people, nor did he make any movements. It was as if he had used a simple thought to create those sword lights and kill dozens of people in an instant. What kind of battle prowess was this? At this moment, the third young supreme of the Heaven Protector clan looked at Lin Tian again. He was a little shocked. Was this the legendary strongest physique? He actually had this kind of battle prowess with this kind of cultivation. Could a Void Sky cultivator have this kind of battle prowess? Lin Tian stepped on this person and didn't say anything to him. He directly sent a wisp of his divine sense into the other party's sea of consciousness to find out what they were doing in this place. Then, in the blink of an eye, 10 breaths passed. From the other party's sea of consciousness, he found out that these people were excavating a Sprite Bloodstone mine in this place. The Sprite Bloodstone was the core divine material used by the Heaven Protector clan to perfect the Spirit Devouring diagram. Every Spirit Devouring diagram required a large amount of Sprite Bloodstone. The divine material used to perfect that fiendish weapon, they can refine a flawless Spirit Devouring diagram with the Sprite Bloodstone. He frowned slightly. He naturally knew about the Heaven Protector clan's Spirit Devouring diagram. He had seen it with his own eyes. It was already very terrifying when it was only a half-finished product. Just a half-finished Spirit Devouring diagram emitted an aura that was even more terrifying than that clan's 72-winged powerhouse. That fiendish weapon had actually been completely refined. Just how terrifying was that power? At that moment, he stepped on Xun Yin and circulated the dragon burial scripture. Strands of dragon patterns surged out from his other foot and rushed into the ground. Soon, he found a blood-red crystal in the depths of the ground. It was intertwined with an extremely terrifying fiendish aura that seemed to be able to corrode even an immortal realm powerhouse. It was enveloped by a tyrannical earth vein barrier. A faint light intertwined in his eyes. This is the Sprite Bloodstone? Just now, these people were breaking the earth vein barrier around the Sprite Bloodstone. Boom! Suddenly, a terrifying rumble sounded. A treasured bell rushed out from Xun Yan's body under his foot. The treasured bell was intertwined with dense, mysterious runes. As soon as it appeared, it emitted a powerful pressure that reached the heavens. Without a doubt, This was an immortal realm artifact. You're not weak, you're very strong. Unfortunately, your cultivation is only at the void sky realm, Shunyan said, his voice cold. He urged the immortal realm artifact to press down on Lin Tian. Move your dirty foot away from me. Lin Tian moved his gaze and looked at the immortal realm artifact bell. He directly slapped it. Clang! With a loud sound, the treasured bell shook and was directly sent flying more than 800 feet away. You! Xun Yan's expression changed. The immortal realm artifact that he had summoned with his cultivation at the end of the void sky realm was actually sent flying just like that. Lin Tian stepped on this person's surging foot and exerted force again, breaking all the bones in this person's body. This person couldn't help but cry out in pain. At the same time, his divine sense once again entered this person's sea of consciousness. Soon he found more things. There are actually more than 30 of these sprite bloodstone mines. Currently, they're all in the process of being mined, and their sizes are different. A cold glint flashed in his eyes. Then, he paused for a moment and grabbed the immortal realm artifact bell in the distance. He directly erased the divine sense imprint on it and put it away. Then, he used the reincarnation god-slaying technique and crushed Xun Yan's soul under his foot, directly killing him. The 30 sprite bloodstone mines must be destroyed. We can't let them successfully mine them. The Heaven Protector clan's spirit-devouring diagram was too terrifying. The materials that could perfect such a killing weapon must be destroyed. Perhaps they couldn't completely destroy them, but they had to destroy as much as they could. This was because the more sprite bloodstones this clan obtained, the more complete spirit-devouring diagrams they could refine. This would be very disadvantageous for them in their future battle with the Celestial Court. They had to destroy the core divine materials that this clan used to perfect the spirit-devouring diagrams as much as possible. He paused and looked at the sprite bloodstone mine underground. The dragon burial scriptures circulated, and dragon patterns surged out densely. It took about 6 hours to set up a huge dragon burial formation underground. Then, he completely destroyed the sprite bloodstone mine underground along with the ley line boundary outside. In another extremely large world not far from this world, there is also a sprite bloodstone mine. Let's go there first. He directly tore open a world portal and stepped into it. Not long after, he appeared in another world. Clang! Almost at the moment he appeared in this world, there was an extremely sharp sword whistle coming from the northeast, causing the entire sky in that direction to tremble. The endless clouds instantly dispersed, and a familiar aura came from there. Chapter 2200. Looking at the sharp sword aura in the northeast and sensing the familiar aura, Lin Tian couldn't help but be moved. That senior is in this world. He immediately moved. His speed was very fast as he headed straight for the northeast of the extreme world. Not long after that, he arrived outside a chain of mountain ridges. Looking ahead, the chain of mountain ridges were all barren, without any vegetation. There were dozens of people besieging a middle-aged man. Dozens of people were intertwined with heavenly ascension-level auras, all of them wearing the unique uniform of the Celestial Court. They were all Heaven Lords of the Celestial Court. At this time, dozens of Heaven Lords joined forces to besiege the middle-aged man. Saint auras rolled out, and different killing lights swept out in all directions. The middle-aged man was tall and slender, surrounded by boundless sword auras. Surrounded by dozens of Heaven Lords, his expression was calm and indifferent, like a sword god who had descended to the mortal world, looking down on the world. It really is that senior. Lin Tian's eyes flashed with surprise. The middle-aged man was one of the 10 disciples of the human king, Ao Jian Tianzuan. He looked at Ao Jian Tianzuan from afar. The other party was facing dozens of heavenly ascension-level Heaven Lords of the Celestial Court alone. The sword auras around him seemed to have a mind of their own, cutting through the void and shattering the saint power. The combined forces of dozens of Heaven Lords were completely useless. Moreover, from time to time, Heaven Lords were injured. Blood splattered into the void, and a strong smell of blood floated in the air. Heavenly Ascension Level. Looking at the battlefield, he clearly sensed the Heavenly Ascension Level aura from Ao Jian Tianzuan. After more than 100 years, the other party had stepped into the Heavenly Ascension Level from the end of the virtual sky world. Then, he found dozens of mutilated corpses on the ground of the mountain. Blood stained the ground red, and all of the corpses were surrounded by Heavenly Ascension Level aura. Moreover, their tattered uniforms were basically the same as the dozens of Heaven Lords. He couldn't help but be moved. These dozens of mutilated corpses were definitely Heavenly Ascension Level powerhouses when they were alive. Moreover, they were all Heavenly Ascension Level Heaven Lords of the Celestial Court. There was no doubt that they were killed by Ao Jian Tianzuan. Images flashed through his mind. Before he came here, Ao Jian Tianzuan was besieged by nearly 100 Heaven Lords of the Celestial Court. By the time he arrived, dozens of Heaven Lords had already been killed by Ao Jian Tianzuan. He sized up Celestial Venerable Ao Jian again. There was not a single drop of blood on his body, not even a drop of his enemy's blood. From the beginning of the battle until now, he had been besieged by nearly 100 Heaven Lords of the Celestial Court and had killed dozens of people. So strong! He couldn't help but mutter to himself. One had to know that the Heaven Lords of the Celestial Court were all extremely strong. None of them were easy to deal with. However, Ao Jian Tianzuan had faced nearly 100 of these existences alone and killed dozens of them without suffering any injuries. This battle prowess was too shocking. Truly, as expected of the disciple of the human emperor. At this moment, because he didn't conceal his aura, Ao Jian Tianzuan directly looked over from the mountain ridge. When he saw him, his expression changed slightly. At the same time, the dozens of Heaven Lords naturally noticed that someone was approaching. They immediately looked over. Reincarnation body. The dozens of Heaven Lords were immediately shocked. Now that Lin Tian had reached the middle level of the virtual sky realm and was protected by the Reincarnation Heart Sutra, even people like the ancient ancestor of the Celestial Court would find it difficult to tell that he was a reincarnation body. These dozens of Heaven Lords were far weaker than the ancient ancestor of the Celestial Court. However, as the Heaven Lords of the Celestial Court, they knew many things. They had long known about Lin Tian's reincarnation body. They knew about the birth of a reincarnation body and the appearance of Lin Tian. Therefore, when they saw Lin Tian in this place, they naturally recognized that Lin Tian was a reincarnation body. You guys should work together to stop him. His sane energy is almost exhausted, so he's no longer a threat. I'll suppress the reincarnation body first, then work together to suppress him. They're all very special and valuable. One of them said, and immediately rushed toward Lin Tian. Lin Tian was a reincarnation body. To the Celestial Court, he was a taboo. Whenever they saw him, they had to suppress him and bring him back alive. As for Ao Jian Tianzuan, these people already knew that he was the disciple of the human king and was very valuable. As long as they could suppress him alive and bring him back to the Celestial Court and present him to the Celestial Court's Heaven Protector clan, the clan would definitely reward them handsomely. This person was very fast. With a whistling sound, he closed in on Lin Tian in the blink of an eye. Clang! The sound of a sword was ear-piercing. A silver sword light arrived first, piercing through the back of the person's head with a puff. In just an instant, that person froze. The light of life in his eyes quickly faded away, disappearing without a trace in the blink of an eye. Then he fell from the sky, landing on the ground with a loud bang, sending sand and dust into the air. Heaven-piercing sword. Lin Tian's eyes shone brightly. He had cultivated Ao Jian Tianzuan's heaven-piercing sword manual. At this time, he naturally recognized this sword. It was one of the core sane arts of the heaven-piercing sword manual. It was very terrifying, but after pausing for a moment, he noticed some other things. The difference was that this sword strike seemed to be slightly different from the sword strike of Lin Tian that he knew. It was slightly less overbearing and fierce, and it carried a sort of simplicity. Obviously, it was many times more profound and formidable than before. Therefore, he also guessed that in these years, heavenly venerable Ao Jian must have repeatedly polished the Ling Tian sword scripture, causing it to be improved. It'll be done soon. Ao Jian Tianzuan's voice sounded. Yes, senior. Lin Tian came back to his senses and immediately nodded. He naturally knew that Ao Jian Tianzuan's words were directed at him. Almost as soon as he finished speaking, the sword aura around Ao Jian Tianzuan's body suddenly soared. It was as if a terrifying volcano of death had erupted. Unparalleled sword aura enveloped the heaven and earth, causing everything to tremble violently. The dozens of heaven masters' expressions changed. They originally thought that Ao Jian Tianzuan's saint energy was about to dry up and would not be able to hold on for long. They thought that if they worked together, they would be able to suppress the opponent. However, at this moment, Ao Jian Tianzuan's aura was even stronger than before. You were hiding your strength? One of the heaven masters was shocked and furious. At the same time, Lin Tian was also shocked. This kind of pressure was really frightening. It was also at this moment that Ao Jian Tianzuan moved. Like a spiritual saint sword, he took a step forward and sword light filled the sky. The dozens of heaven masters were extremely shocked and furious. At the same time, they were also horrified. They immediately resisted with all their strength. Boom! Clang! Saint force swept out, and the sword hummed. The space was constantly destroyed and shattered. Soon, a quarter of an hour had passed, and the place became quiet. The dozens of heaven masters were all killed. So strong. Chapter 2201. Ao Jian Tianzuan had single-handedly killed nearly 100 sky-level heavenly lords. Moreover, he was completely unscathed, and not a single drop of the enemy's blood landed on his body. This level of battle prowess was truly frightening. However, he quickly calmed down. After all, this was the disciple of a human king. It was also at this time that Ao Jian Tianzuan walked over from the other side. You've cultivated very quickly. Looking at Lin Tian, a faint light flashed across Ao Jian Tianzuan's eyes. When they had parted in the primordial universe, Lin Tian had just stepped into the heavenly venerate realm and was at the first heaven of the heavenly venerate realm. Now, in just a little over 100 years, Lin Tian had already reached the middle level of the void sky realm. This cultivation speed was very shocking. I had some opportunities, Lin Tian said, then continued. By the way, senior, the celestial court discovered dozens of sprite blood or mines. It's the core divine material for refining a fiendish weapon. He briefly explained the matter of the sprite blood, or mine, and the spirit-devouring diagram. Then, unexpectedly, Ao Jian Tianzuan had already learned of these matters. The reason he was in this world now was the same as his purpose, to destroy the sprite blood, or mine in this world. Moreover, he had already destroyed it. The sky-level heavenly lords from before were a group of celestial court experts responsible for excavating the sprite blood, or mine in this world. Because Ao Jian Tianzuan had destroyed the sprite blood or mine, they had attacked Ao Jian Tianzuan. In the end, they had all been wiped out by Ao Jian Tianzuan. Just in time, let's travel together, Ao Jian Tianzuan said. There's an even larger sprite blood or mine nearby. Yes, senior. Lin Tian nodded. He naturally knew that there was an even larger sprite blood or mine in a nearby extreme world. He immediately left this extreme world with Ao Jian Tianzuan and headed there. They moved very quickly, and it did not take long for them to appear in another extreme world. In this world, there was an even larger sprite blood mine. When he and Ao Jian Tianzuan appeared in this world, they both knew the coordinates of the demon blood were in this world. They immediately headed there and soon arrived outside a red wasteland. As far as the eye could see, it was very spacious in front of them. There was not much vegetation on the surface of the ground. Occasionally, they could see some sparse shrubs. He and Ao Jian Tianzuan headed straight for the center of the red wasteland. Soon, they arrived at the center of the wasteland. More than 100 figures were gathered at the front. Apart from the 14-winged young man at the front, the rest were all reaching heaven beings, and the pressure they exuded was astonishing. The 14-winged youth was undoubtedly a cultivator from the Heaven Protector tribe. The others were all heaven masters of the celestial court. Apart from the 14-winged young man, the rest of the 100 or so people were working on something. They were using some special method to decipher something. Celestial court, Lin Tian muttered to himself. Along the way, he increasingly felt the terror of the celestial court. Outside the celestial court, it could be said that it was very difficult to meet a reaching heaven expert. There were very few cultivators outside the celestial court, and there were also very few cultivators of the void sky, sovereign, Saint Venerate, and Saint King realm. However, there were too many of these experts in the celestial court, and it was very frightening. It could be said that of all the reaching heaven, void sky, sovereign, Saint Venerate, and Saint King realm experts he had met over the years, regardless of their cultivation level, the majority were from the celestial court, accounting for more than 90% of them. While he was thinking about this, the 100 or so heaven masters and the 14-winged young man naturally noticed him and Ao Jian Tianzuan, and their eyes narrowed. Reincarnation body, and a human king's disciple. The people here all had high status in the celestial court, and they all knew that Lin Tian was a reincarnation body. They also knew that Ao Jian Tianzuan was a human king's disciple. So when they saw Lin Tian and Ao Jian Tianzuan suddenly appear here, they were all shocked. The 14-winged young man's eyes were deep and cold as he swept his gaze over Ao Jian Tianzuan before landing on Lin Tian. Reaching heaven, void sky. The person spoke, paused for a moment, then walked towards Lin Tian and Ao Jian Tianzuan. At the same time, he ordered the 100 or so heaven masters, seal off the surroundings. Don't let them escape. Lord God, defying. You want to deal with them together? One of the 100 or so heaven masters was shocked, and one of them said, "Forgive this one's rudeness. Lord, your talent is peerless, and you're the #1 young supreme of your clan. With your strength at the end of the void sky world, you can easily suppress a reincarnation body in the virtual sky world, but the person paused, looked at Ao Jian Tianzuan, and said, "But that person is already at the reaching heaven realm, and he's a human king's disciple. In terms of strength, I'm afraid. The 100 or so heaven masters knew that the 14-winged young man was very strong, but in the end, he was still only at the void sky realm. There was still a big gap between him and a reaching heaven realm cultivator, and he couldn't win against one. The gap between the reaching heaven realm and the void sky realm was too big. They were all guards of the 14-winged young man on this trip. As the #1 expert of the Heaven Protector clan's younger generation, he was highly valued by that clan. If anything happened to him here, they wouldn't be able to escape death. Therefore, seeing that the 14-winged young man wanted to deal with Lin Tian and Ao Jian Tianzuan, the 100 or so heaven masters were very worried. "It's okay. I know what you mean." The 14-winged young man named God Defying didn't stop. His eyes were still indifferent as he glanced at Ao Jian Tianzuan, a human king's disciple at the reaching heaven realm. "With my current combat strength, I can't defeat him, but it won't be that easy for him to defeat me either. I'll use him to gain experience, and when I feel that it's about time, you can suppress him. For now, just guard the surroundings." Hearing this, the 100 or so heaven masters immediately understood and nodded in unison. Yes! Immediately, the 100 or so heaven masters moved. Their reaching heaven saint powers intertwined and directly sealed the surrounding space. With 14 wings on his back, God Defying walked calmly toward Lin Tian and Ao Jian Tianzuan. His expression was calm, and his eyes were indifferent. Strands of saint light intertwined on the surface of his body, and his aura was condensed. He walked toward Lin Tian and Ao Jian Tianzuan. His posture was very cold and arrogant. He wasn't afraid of the reaching heaven realm human king's disciple Ao Jian Tianzuan at all. He treated Ao Jian Tianzuan as a target to hone his combat strength. As for Lin Tian, who had the strongest king body at the void realm, he didn't care at all. Lin Tian's expression didn't change as he watched this person walk over. Then, in the next moment, he moved. He took a simple step forward and instantly appeared in front of God Defying. God Defying's expression immediately changed. He was shocked by Lin Tian's speed, and his eyes narrowed. You. As soon as the word you left his mouth, he was interrupted. Lin Tian directly raised his hand and pressed down on God Defying's cheek. He pressed down, pressing God Defying to the ground. God Defying's head was the first to touch the ground. With a bang, the ground was directly shattered into pieces, and sand and dirt splattered all over the sky. Chapter 2202. The number one of the Heaven Protector clan's younger generation was knocked to the ground by Lin Tian in just one move. Everyone's expression changed. Even someone as strong as Ao Jiantianzuan was slightly surprised, and a strange light flashed in his eyes. From the aura that God Defying emitted, he could feel that God Defying was not ordinary. Although it was nothing to him, who was at the ascending heaven level, it was definitely very strong for those below the ascending heaven level. However, at this time, Lin Tian knocked God Defying down in an instant. Moreover, during this process, Lin Tian did not emit any powerful aura. It was just a casual movement. This was enough to show that Lin Tian's strength was far beyond God Defying. God Defying and Lin Tian could not be compared at all. Not bad, he muttered to himself. God Defying was pressed to the ground by Lin Tian. The coldness from before disappeared, and he was filled with anger. Human. With a boom, the saint light around his body exploded, and the majestic saint aura was vast and mighty. Unparalleled killing lights rushed out one after another. The killing lights were very frightening, as if they could annihilate everything. However, this had no effect on Lin Tian. Disappear. Two words floated out of Lin Tian's mouth. The reincarnation sword in his hand pulsed, revealing 9 colors. It directly annihilated all of God Defying's killing lights. Then, with a poof, it shattered God Defying's head. Even his spirit was destroyed. On the ground, only a headless corpse was left. My lord! How? How could this be? How could this be? The faces of the hundreds of ascending heaven-level powerhouses who were guarding the area changed drastically, and they were all trembling. Right before their eyes, the number one young supreme being of the clan was killed just like that. He was killed in an instant. On the other side, Ao Jiantianzuan's eyes flashed. He was moved by Lin Tian's powerful strength, and even more so by the 9-colored sword light that was intertwined in Lin Tian's hand. 9-colored saint energy, 9-colored sword gleam. This was the first time he saw it. It was not the Lin Tian sword manual that Lin Tian had once cultivated. It was a new way of the sword and the sword force within the sword gleam. Even someone like him, who had entered the Tao through the sword, was moved. Purely in terms of sword momentum, he felt that Lin Tian's Tao of the sword just now was stronger than his. Then he felt that Lin Tian's aura had changed a lot compared to before. The ancient scripture aura that was similar to theirs was now much weaker, replaced by a new ancient scripture aura. He created his own new divine technique from the ancient scriptures. His eyes flashed as he instantly guessed many things. Bastard! Furious roars rang out. At this time, the 100 or so heavenly masters guarding the area were all shocked and angered to the extreme. All of them moved, charging toward Lin Tiansha at the same time. Shin and I, the number one young supreme of the Heavenly Protector clan, had been killed by Lin Tiansha just like that. They could not escape responsibility. If that bloodline found out, it would be difficult for them to survive. At this time, they looked at Lin Tian, so angry that their eyes were red. Lin Tiansha had killed Shin and I. This was equivalent to forcing them into a dead end. Clang! The sword gleam was ear-piercing and clanging. Silver sword gleam overflowed the sky, and the sword might swept out in all directions. Ao Jiantianzuan made his move at this time. With a wave of his hand, sword gleam filled the sky. More than 100 heavenly masters were forced back by the sword might at the same time. All of them were pierced through, and blood splattered in the void. You have control over 4th Senior Brother's technique. With your current cultivation and 4th Senior Brother's technique, you should be able to destroy this demon blood mine alone. Go and destroy it. Ao Jian Tianzuan said, "Let me deal with them." As his words fell, tens of thousands of swords appeared in all directions, enveloping the 100 or so heavenly masters of the celestial court at the same time. "Yes, Senior." Lin Tian nodded. He naturally knew that the technique Ao Jian Tianzuan was talking about was the dragon burial scripture of Celestial Venerable Zonglong. Thus, he couldn't help but think of another point. Was Celestial Venerable Zonglong the 4th disciple of the Human King? Thinking of this, he didn't stop. The dragon burial scripture operated with his will, and strands of dragon marks gushed out. He had created his own reincarnation scripture and created his own defensive and offensive divine techniques. However, he hadn't abandoned the techniques of the other 9 for the time being. He still controlled them. Wang! The dragon marks intertwined, spreading underground with him as the center. Soon he felt the demon blood mine underground. It was many times larger than the one he had destroyed before. The baleful aura was so thick that it sent chills down his spine. Outside the sprite blood mine, there was a special earth vein enchantment that was very sturdy. He began to construct the Great Dragon Burial Formation underground. As long as the Great Dragon Burial Formation was completed, with his current cultivation, he could easily destroy the Sprite Blood Mine. After all, compared to mining, destroying was many times easier. Don't even think about it. More than 100 Heaven Masters saw that Lin Tian was using a technique to destroy the Demon Blood Mine. Immediately, some of them rushed over. That clan's #1 young supreme being was killed right in front of their eyes. Their chances of survival were already very small, but at least there was still hope. After this, as long as they suppressed Lin Tian, the celestial sovereign Ao Jian, the disciple of the Human King, and excavated the demon blood, or here, the clan might be lenient and consider them as having made up for their mistakes, not killing them. But if Lin Tian also destroyed the demon blood mine here, then they would really be finished. There was no doubt that they would die. "Come back!" Ao Jian Tianzuan spoke, his voice indifferent. Sword light surged and swept back the Heaven Masters who were rushing towards Lin Tian. The sharp sword light was vast and mighty. More than 100 people were all suppressed by this sword aura. Not a single one could break out. "Get lost!" More than 100 Heaven Masters roared and attacked Ao Jian Tianzuan in a frenzy. They wanted to stop Lin Tian from using a technique to destroy the demon blood mine. Ao Jian Tianzuan's expression was indifferent. Sword lights circled around his body, and he was like a peerless sword saint proudly walking through the world. Even in the face of more than 100 celestial court Heaven Masters, he showed no signs of defeat. He held the absolute upper hand. Lin Tianyi continued to construct the Dragon Burial Array while watching Ao Jian Tianzuan battle with more than 100 celestial court Heaven Masters. His eyes flashed, and he was once again shocked by the strength of his opponent. In terms of cultivation time, Ao Jian Tianzuan was undoubtedly far from being able to compare to these celestial court Heaven Masters. However, in terms of battle strength, he was far stronger than these celestial court Heaven Masters. They were not even on the same level. He seriously watched the battle between Ao Jian Tianzuan and more than 100 Heaven Masters. A battle of this level, especially a battle between people like Ao Jian Tianzuan, was still useful to him. Watching this battle allowed him to comprehend a few things. Very quickly, 6 hours passed by in a flash. In 6 hours, Celestial Venerable Ao Jian had fought with more than 100 celestial lords of the Celestial Court and killed 58 of them. He, on the other hand, had completed the construction of the flawless Great Dragon Burial Array. Opens. He formed a dragon seal with one hand, and the Dragon Burial Array immediately opened. Dragon roars resounded, and a destructive dragon light erupted. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.